Hello everyone and welcome to the Mans Esports Pro Team Series round number 2. It's round 2 of 5 where 16 teams are trying to qualify through to their super final. Over 5 rounds they're going to take part in 10 races, 5 sprint races and 5 endurance, and at the end of the championship the top 6 will qualify through to the super final. So we're in the early stages at the moment, but of course if you're with us at round 1 you would have seen some fantastic racing, and I'm sure we're going to see some great racing today. To help you talk you through the action is myself, Chris McCarthy, and ever Harry Jacks.
Yeah, great to be back. I'm really looking forward to this. Now, looking back at the first 2 races and the Autosport International that we recently had as well, the racing really is just top class. So I'm really looking forward to what these guys are going to produce tonight.
Well, the Mans Esports Series in its second year has grown massively. We had 12 teams last year competing in the super final. We're going to have 18 this year. 9 of those being Pro-Am teams, but 9 being pro teams. And of course, the first of our pro teams went through at the Autosport show as well. But in this championship, we're going to get 6 more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot to play for, as well as just the positions for the final that's up for grabs. We've also got the monetary value that they're fighting for throughout the entire field. Now, the top 6 is the main goal, but obviously each position is worth a bit of money for them as well, for an extra bit of incentive if they needed it.
And for those that were here for round number 1, for those of you who weren't welcome, but for those that were here, how much do we look into that first round? Of course, the championship, we have a championship standing. We'll go through that when we go through the grid, but some teams have fallen far behind, but there's still plenty of time to catch up, isn't there?
There's a lot of time, and we can't take it too much at face value. We've got to see whether the trend continues with this event, whether the same teams at the top or not, if the same teams at the bottom put in a better performance. So it's a lot to watch for, but I don't think we can take it too seriously at this point in the championship standings.
And they're fighting for a prize pool as well, $50,000. In the sprint race, the top 10 teams score points, and then everyone scores points in that endurance race as well. And the exciting thing, the most exciting for me about this series is the endurance race is a reverse of the current championship standing. So at the end of the sprint race, the championship will change, then we reverse the grid. What do you make of that?
It's great because it means everyone's always got an opportunity. If you don't have a particularly good first event that we saw the last 2 races, you then get the opportunity, if this race doesn't go too well, you're going to be starting probably towards the front of the grid for the feature race, and a great chance to pick up maximum points from that, which is obviously more points for first place in the feature race than there are in the sprint race. So that's where most of the points are going to come from.
And before we look back at what happened at Autosport Show, let's talk just a little bit more about the challenge ahead today. Silverstone GP in the 91 Mazda 787. Have you ever taken that combination on yourself? If not, what do you think of it?
Not in real life. I would have scared myself to death probably doing that. But on the gaming world, yeah, done it a few times. It's such a great car to lift off some figures for you. We're looking at 1991 Le Mans winner, the first Japanese car to win that event. Best part of 700 horsepower and only weighing 850 kilos. It's got a distinct, glorious sound that I think pretty much any motorsport fan knows. If they heard it, they'd know that's the Mazda. So these guys are really going to enjoy driving it around really high speed, lots of downforce, no needed circuit. So they're really going to be pushed to their limits in terms of what they can deliver in such a high-speed, twitchy car through these high-speed bends.
And at the first round, we were in the Ferrari A, of course, around the Le Mans circuit, the full Le Mans Circuit de la Sarthe. This one, what do you make of this combination? Do you think this is going to provide for some close racing, lots of battling going on, or do you think it's going to be a longer procedure in the endurance race where it comes down to pit stops?
Well, I think we saw last season in the Super Final, we raced around Silverstone in modern prototypes, and we had a really good race there. It was a 3-hour-long race, and say for the majority of it, we didn't know who was going to be coming out on top, really. There was a lot of battling in that, and I'm expecting the same thing here. It's a medium to high speed, cornered circuit. There's not much time to make up in those corners. You make up most of the time in slow speed corners. There's only a handful of braking zones around this track, so I'm expecting them to be quite nose to tail. It can be really difficult to make an overtake there. You really got to make those braking zones count if you want to go for a late lunch perhaps.
Well, plenty more to go through before we get into that first race. As we said, it's going to be a 10-lapper, but of course just a couple of weeks ago we were at the Autosport show where we had the first of our pro teams qualify through via the Teams Invitational. For those of you who missed it, here's a look at what happened. This is the Le Mans Esports Teams Invitational. We are away and racing for 2 hours. There's only 1.2 seconds between the top 2. The winner will go to the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. Here we go then, Williams versus Jota. 1 lap to decide. To the Portuguese. I wonder, Jota getting very close now. It is getting seriously close. That was a mistake there from Williams. And oh no, big mistake. And that's a spin there from the Jota team. Williams are going to take the win.
Williams across the line. Give him a round of applause, everyone. Williams win the Autosport Team Invitational. It's their only chance to do it, and they're going to be going to the Mans Esports Series Super Final.
Well, there you go. Before we talk about Williams and their fantastic achievement in what was an epic race, I think it's fair to say, one thing that took me back at the Autosport show was the amount of viewers we had there live. Of course, we had loads of you tuning in live on the live streams, but the audience was absolutely massive, wasn't it, all the way through?
It was, you're walking around, seeing all these fantastic cars lined up and getting a bit of history and knowledge from them, and then you come across the esports stage, which a real big feature of the Autosport event. And I think the racing that was provided, that was on the screens, it helped us provide an atmosphere which meant people wanted to come and have a watch, because it was so good to see them racing so close, and we didn't know who was going to be winning. It was 2 hours long, and the whole 2 hours of it, we were left guessing who's going to win, who's going to be in the fight for it. And so Williams, again, congratulations to them. They've made it through at their only opportunity, of course, because they're not in the Pro Series event. So they made it count on the day, but pushed hard by Veloce, who unfortunately missed out for their sake. And Jota as well had a terrible start. They dropped into the back, and they came down to take it to the last corner of the last lap.
And the thing you can see when you watch back the footage there, you can just hear the crowd going wild. When Jota took that spin, you can just hear the sheer reaction. The racing was really good, and it just showed esports in such a good light, didn't it?
Absolutely. These guys do this for a living, and they're making it work. They're providing some real great spectacles and great action and great overtaking. Hard racing, fast racing is what we're all here to see, and they're providing it in abundance.
So Williams, of course, they've taken that space. They're not racing in the Pro Team Series, for those of you who may be with us for the first time. Of course, they had a pretty good run at the Super Final last year, so for them that was a crucial result, wasn't there? For Veloce, that was their only chance to qualify through automatically, so a big disappointment for them. They did have a driver that wasn't able to turn up last minute, which really didn't play into their favour at all, but big result for Williams.
Absolutely. I say they were there for the Super Final last year. I think perhaps underperformed. I think they'd even admit that themselves. They were probably hoping for a lot more. We thought they would probably give us a bit more in terms of their performances and results, but they've turned up this season, obviously taken a lot of learning curves, and they've done a lot of research into what went wrong last year, and they put that right this year so far. So they've got actually delivering the Super Final now, though.
Well, everyone that did visit the Motorsport Games stage, of course, as well as watching all the racing, we had 3 people actually qualify through to the Mans Esports Series Super Finals themselves. Of course, the pro teams, we have the qualification via the Teams Invitational, this series, and then 2 wildcards. But we do have the Pro-Am class at the Super Final this year as well, which will be made up by 18 pro drivers and 9 AM drivers. Those you can qualify through via the Rivals event on Forza Motorsport 7, and of course the AM drivers you can qualify through at live events as well. One of those being the Autosport show, and then Sebring and Spa, the FIA World Endurance Championship rounds you can qualify through. So there you can see the 12 drivers that have qualified through so far in the Pro-Am class. So you can see John O'Grady, Luke Fletcher and Aidan Brow. Congratulations to those. The 4th Rivals event is currently taking place on Forza Motorsport 7 and will be until the end of the 9th of February. So you can go on Forza Motorsport 7 and compete. If you're the fastest in your region by that time, then you'll qualify through as well. So having those 2 classes is going to add a completely new spectacle, isn't it?
It is. It brings that sense of realism from real world racing, and to make it more lifelike, if you want. It brings that element of relatability from the real world racing to the gaming version. So it's great to have that. It makes it more open for more people. It's great to have that level of inclusivity in terms of you've got these events, the pro events taking part, you've got the Rivals events, you've got the events at certain arenas as well they can come to and take part in qualifying. So for me personally, I love to see that. I like to see as many people as possible getting the chance to compete.
Well, congratulations to everyone who has qualified. Go to our website to find out more information about how you can potentially get involved as well, and all the dates. We'll run through them again at the end of the show, though. But let's run through the grid for this first race. We have had qualifying. It's going to be a 10-lapper, as we said, and here was the grid after qualifying. So Red Bull Racing, who are 8th in the championship, qualified on pole position. Alongside them, they're 2nd in the championship. It's Jota. Then going to the second row, we have Lazarus, our championship leaders, with Fast Racers Forza, who are 5th. They start on the outside of row 2. Some big movers on row 3, 9th and 15th in the championship respectively. So good results from Rise Motorsport, Chris Cabrera in the car for them. Team Forzilla, Christian Pop in for them as well. Lightspeed Esports are then on the inside of row 4, and 8th place is going to be the Pashura team, who are 3rd in the championship at the moment. Then we go to row number 5, Virtual Drivers by TX3, 4th in the championship. They will be a little bit disappointed with that. Solar Vision starts on the outside of row 5. Row number 6 is then going to be Alien Motorsport and VP Gaming.de. Then we go to row number 7. It's going to be Legion of Racers and Team Highlands Racing. And on the back row, Raging Dragon Esports and the Jean Alacy Esports Academy. So that is the grid. Harry, pick a winner for us.
Jota.
There we go. Right, Jota are going to, they're starting second place, and are they going to be able to take the lead in towards turn number 1? This is the start of 10 laps. There you can see the Red Bull Racing car leading as we go down towards Village for the first time. We are on board with Jota at the moment. You can see just behind that looks like Lazarus Racing, who have slotted into 3rd place, and Lazarus trying to slip down the inside of Jota there. Are they going to be able to get through? Yes, they do. Oh, there's a bit of an incident in the background, a cloud of smoke, and it looked like a spinning car as well. And 2 teams dropping down. I think Alien Motorsport is one of them who have dropped down, and I think Raging Dragon Esports are the other. But Jota retakes second place, and that looks like Lazarus stuck on the outside at the moment.
Yeah, nice clean start at the front of the grid at least. Now, we've still got Lazarus side by side, though, just losing track position on the exit of the corner there, so Jota slot back into second. But a disaster for the guys at the back. You've only got 10 laps to make it as far forward as possible in this race, and to drop so far back already on the first lap and the first few corners is a disaster for them.
So as Jota, as you said there, in second place at the moment. There's a bit of a gap to the leaders, but plenty of time to close in. This is the first of 10 laps at the moment. As we can see, the Rise Motorsport car, we're with them at the moment. They're currently sitting in 5th place. So this is a good result for them at the moment if the flag were to go now, but there's still 9.5 laps to go. Rise currently 9th in the championship as we go down towards Stowe for the first time. We're looking at the battle for second, currently being led by the Jota team. There you can see Lazarus in 3rd. Those two battled all the way to the flag for the lead at round number 1 in race number 1, and both were in the top 3 at the end of race number 2 as well, but neither are leading at the moment. There we can go on board with Lazarus. We can see Jota just ahead of us at the moment. The lead belongs, of course, with Red Bull Racing Esports, who have really stepped it up this round. Aurelian Mallet in the car for them, put it on pole position and leads at the moment.
Yeah, Aurelian, someone that I know well, and I took part in the McLaren's World's Fastest Gamer, the first season of that with him, so I know that he's extremely capable. As the Lazarus car gets the back end a bit tail happy there, now coming under pressure from, I think that's Fast Racers Forza perhaps behind, so they've now lost touch with Jota, but hopefully for them wins they'll be able to try and get onto the back of that Red Bull car, because they're breaking away at the moment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Forzilla have just gone up into 5th place. Fast Racers Forza are in 4th place at the moment. We can see them hassling the back of the Lazarus car, who have lost touch with Jota just as we were on board with them there through the loop. It looks like they were just getting a little bit out of shape before the Wellington Straight, and they've paid the price for that as Fast Racers Forza now put on the pressure. Now, Team Forzilla at round number 1, they were running in a pretty strong position in about 8th place, but then they had to serve a 15-second stop-go penalty on the last lap. That dropped them down the order, and they weren't really able to make up for it in the reverse grid endurance race. So they've got a little bit to prove here, Team Forzilla, but so far, so good.
Absolutely, they're a bit of an underdog coming into this now, a newly formed esports team. And they're taking every learning curve that comes at them, Okay, so each event that goes by is a chance for them to learn and research what's going on. Obviously, it's paying dividends at the moment with at the moment a strong result potentially on the cards, but obviously they've got to get through the next 8 laps.
So how the points work, it's 25 for the winner, 18 for second, 15 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth, and then it goes down in 2s. The last of the points going to 10th place. So 11th down don't score any points in the sprint race. However, everyone scores a point in the endurance race where the points go up. So when it's 38 to the winner, but still 11th to 16, only the 1 point. So some teams only have 1 point to their name. One of those teams being Forzilla, who are in 15th in the championship. So this would be a great result for them. Fast Racers Forza likewise. They're keeping consistent, 5th in the championship. They're 4th on track at the moment. But Harry, looking at Lazarus, it looks like they're starting to recover here. They've dropped Fast Racers Forza, and now they're going after Jota.
Yeah, totally behind the wheel of that Lazarus car. And they're putting a an end to the mistakes that we saw at the beginning of the last lap, pulled a gap on Igor Rodriguez in the Fast Racers Forza car, and then looking to get back onto the tail of the Jota Esports car, resuming their battle from the first event over both races that we saw them hammer and tongs, and even in the Autosport National event we saw them battling hard as well, so looking to carry on where they left off.
This is Lightspeed Esports, Mariano Ocana in the car for them in this sprint race as they come through Copse Corner, this for lap number 3 of 10 now. So these sprint races do go by pretty quickly. Let us know what you're thinking of the race. Use hashtag LMES on Twitter. We're going to read some messages out between races and after the second race as well. Let us know what you think. Who's going to take the win? Harry thinks it's going to be Jota. Who do you think? Who are the ones to watch going into the endurance race as well? But there is Jota, the aforementioned. They're in second place at the moment, holding a stable gap, I think it's fair to say, to Red Bull.
Absolutely. They might already be looking forward to the championship and think, well, we're in a stable position now in the second place in the championship. No point risking anything at this stage. Just keep collecting the points. No, second place is not a bad result for them at all. So it might just be a case of they're looking to hold station and make sure they bring those points home and just steadily build a total towards the end. But obviously everyone likes to win.
Well, Lightspeed Esports, they're 6th. They hold the final ticket to the super final at the moment, but of course there is a long way to go. There they are on track at the moment. They have just moved up into 9th place, so on the move are Lightspeed Esports at the moment. Not in terms of overall positions though. They did start 7th place, 6th in the championship as we said, so Lightspeed Esports will be hoping to get more of a recovery on here. They've got virtual drivers by TX3 behind them, but here we go, back to our leaders, Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, no, doing a sterling job so far, not put a foot wrong, got off the line well, no pole position, you've got to make it count, and they're doing so far, lap 4 of 10, and they've got a hefty bit of breathing space between them and the Jota car behind, so I think Aurelian will be quite comfortable there, in terms of how the car's doing and how he's driving, so it should be all right.
And how do you approach a race like this, Harry? It's a sprint race compared to endurance race. Some people might prefer those endurance races. How do you change your approach coming into a sprint race?
Well, the big factor with the Mans Esports, there's multiple drivers to a team, so it might be just assessing your own driver and see who's maybe the quicker over one lap, and therefore they're more suited to qualifying and the sprint race, because the qualifying driver has to do the sprint race as well. And then analysing maybe someone who's going to be more consistent, maybe not ultimate lap speed that they've got, but they might have the consistency to do it lap after lap, only maybe a tenth or two off the pace, but they can do it hundreds of laps at a time. So they've got to weigh up their options and see what they want to deliver, but at the moment they all seem to be doing a pretty sterling job.
Jacob Bokert was in the seat for Jota at round number 1, did both races, but now it is Sean Arnold in for them, and he's going to be doing both races. So most of the teams, I'd say about 80% of the teams have gone with that strategy to put one driver in to do both races.
Yeah, no, it's a strategy that will work, because obviously you've got a driver who's going to be used to the car come the feature race. They've just done 10 laps in it already, plus the qualifying. They're nicely warmed up, shall we say, in terms of getting a feel for the car and the track and just the atmosphere of racing competitively. You've got to be in the right frame of mind and be in the zone to deliver your best. And you see the Lazarus car now starting to really chase down that Jota car, and I reckon we might be seeing a few fake moves coming up soon, as well as the Fordzilla car currently in 5th place, putting on pressure to the Fast Racers Forza car. Yeah,
Christian Pop in for Fordzilla. Was good to meet those guys at the Autosport show, doing a very good job, a newly formed team as well, so finding their feet at the moment. Not new drivers, of course, but new as a team together, and Team Fordzilla have really stepped it up since that first round. As I said, they did have a penalty at the first round, which cost them a top 10 finish in the very first race of this season, but so far they are on track to get a very good finish. They're going to score some decent points if they're able to hold on to a top 5 spot here. So Team Fordzilla just chasing down the Fast Racers Forza car at the moment as we go a little bit further up the field. I believe this is Lazarus we are on board with now, who are chasing down that Jota car, who is in 2nd place at the moment. And now Lazarus, I'm sure, weighing up the options of whether they take the fight to Jota or play the long game and see if Jota can do anything about that lead for Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ultimate goal for these guys is to finish top 6 overall in the championship. They want to take it race by race, of course, and finish the best positions possible they can achieve, but ultimately top 6 is the target. So I think we're looking at the top 3 in this race are likely to be in the top 6, I think, come the end of event 5. I don't think there's too much doubt about that, but maybe it's just a bit of personal pride as well. You want to get one over on another driver, another competitive team that you're always fighting against, to lay down a marker and say, we're the team to beat, not you. Well,
I'm sure people watching are thinking, well, if you're in the top 6, you just stay there, right, until the flag, and you do that every single race. Not the case, because $50,000 of the $200,000 prize pool is being allocated in this series. So the winner of this series at the end of 5 rounds is going to take $10,000, second $7,500, $5,000 for third, $4,000 for fourth, $3,500 for fifth, and $3,000 for sixth. And it works its way down with 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th all getting $1,000 each. So the difference between second and third, although you both qualify through, is $2,500.
Absolutely, everything's worth fighting for. So although you might be safe later on in the races and events thinking, yeah, we're qualified, no problems, but every position is going to be worth potentially a bit of money, and who needs more incentive than a financial one?
And you're someone yourself who's... we'll come back to that because Jota and off there. Well, that's going to lose them second place, surely. Yes, it is. So through Maggots and Beckett's there, it was a little bit of an off for Jota and managed to save it quite well in the end there, Harry. I think they've probably got away with that one.
Yeah, it's not too often you see a car get out shaped through Maggots and Beckett's and hold on to it to maintain a third position at least. They're not facing the wrong way, which is good for them. But it's a common theme almost along the Jota Sports race team that we constantly see mistakes at the start of races which drop them down from where they want to be, and they have to put on a tremendous fight back, which they usually do, to get back up where they should have been. But it's a case of what could have been for them if they hadn't made those mistakes. Thankfully this one wasn't too disastrous, but it is another position to the championship leaders that they've given away.
Well, we look back at Team Fordzilla at the moment as they come through the first corner. Fordzilla doing a good job here so far. They're in 5th place at the moment. They are being chased down by Rise Motorsport. I believe that is in 6th place. So they're in a pretty good position at the moment. They're kind of equidistant between 4th and 6th, if you like. So in that spot of trying to not look in their mirrors and chase forward. There is a bit of a battle going on behind them, though. I think it's for about 7th place. We'll, I'm sure, cut back to that in just a second. Just behind this, just outside of the top 6, it looks like it's being led by Solar Vision Racing, and indeed it is. This is much further down the field we go to now. I believe this is Solar Vision Racing. In fact, this is a change a little bit further down the field, is it? As down the inside we go. This might be the Solar Vision Racing car that we were talking about just making a move there, but in fact, I think this is outside of the top 10. Solar Vision Racing, I think, have Pashura behind them at the moment. Here is the Jota car. Jota car, who a lap ago where we are now had a bit of an off, so trying to chase down Lazarus once again. Fast Racers Forza are behind them at the moment, and then it is, of course, Team Fordzilla behind that. So that is your top 5 at the moment.
Yeah, Red Bull running away with this one at the moment, aren't they? No, lap 7 or 10, we've come into the point where we've only got 3 laps left, and we've got a car off the track there. I think that might be the Alien Motorsport car potentially. It's getting away with it though, but it's Solar Vision just behind them, which is I think what we saw earlier, the overtake coming down the Wellington Straight, so they're still going at it down the Hangar Straight now. Yeah, so Solar Vision Racing now just behind Alien Motorsport. Is a battle a little bit further down the field, so Alien Motorsport, I believe, are in 12th place. So that is a battle a little bit further down. So the Jota car we can see there in 3rd place. This is perhaps the main battle on circuit in terms of position, with Lazarus just ahead. It looked like Red Bull Racing got a bit of a lock-up on at the lead, but they're not going to be too worried about that as they now come down the Wellington Straight one more time. So already on lap number 8 of 10 now, and at this stage you could say this car here, Red Bull Racing, can kind of come off the gas a little bit, not need to go at 100% anymore, and not take any major risks. I hope that's not a commentator's curse you're trying to throw out there, Chris, but we'll have to see. But I think they'll be comfortable, even if they have any mistakes like we saw from the Jota car. They've got enough of a gap now to not have to worry. So yeah, I think you're right. There's no point in them pushing 110% at this point, because they don't need to. They've got enough of a buffer to drop half a second a lap even, and still make it comfortably without too many issues. And obviously these two, Lazarus and Jota, might still come to blows later on in the race anyway.
So just behind, of course, as we said, is Fast Racers Sports. So then it is Fordzilla behind that as well. Of course, Solar Vision are a little bit further back. Just outside of the top 10, we can see the John Lacey Sports Academy look like they've moved up. So they're moving up the field at the moment. Unfortunately, the likes of Team Highlands Racing a little bit further down the field. I think Raging Dragon also towards the back of the field as well. But we're staying with this at the moment. Tobin Lee in for Lazarus Racing, doing a good job trying to chase down Sean Arnold, who is in 2nd. Sean Arnold, sorry, wrong way round, isn't it? Sean Arnold trying to chase down Tobin Lee. He is in 3rd place. Lazarus into 2nd.
You see that gap at the front now, 4 seconds, but this is where the battle is for the second step of the podium. These two now, as we said earlier, they were fighting hammer and tongs in the first event for pretty much both races for a bit of pride. Lazarus came out on top in that one. Jota had to do the recovery drive, but the first race of that, the sprint race of that one, was pretty much the same thing. These two following each other around, occasionally swapping position, but Sean Arnold's got back into the zone again after that small mistake and putting the pressure on Tobin. We'll see how he deals with that over the next 2 laps before the checkered flag waves.
It looks like a little bit further back, Solar Vision are still battling away in 7th place, but this is the main fight on circuit at the moment between Jota and Lazarus. We're on board with Jota at the moment, who are just trying to get that little bit closer to Lazarus, just trying to put the pressure on now as they come through Woodcote down towards Copse Corner for the penultimate time. You'd say behind this though, if they make just a little bit of contact or one mistake, then the likes of Fast Racer Sports at Team Fordzilla are all going to be able to capitalise.
Absolutely, no, that's the one thing they need to do, is make sure they keep it clean. They're in a good position at the moment. They don't need to risk everything at this point, but say they want to get that extra position because it's always going to be beneficial to have a few more points than what you might have otherwise had. I say it's so difficult to get a run on this track though. It's such high speed that one little mistake can make all the difference, but these guys are so good that they tend to make very little mistakes, if any.
And well, speaking of Fast Racer Sports, so this is going to be good in terms of the championship for them, with both virtual drivers by TX3 and Pashura down the field. Fast Racing Sports, who were 5th in the championship, should move up to 3rd with this result. Of course, this is our top 2 we're looking at. It's going to be very good for Red Bull Racing Esports. I'd be interested to see where they emerge out of all of this, because they were 12 points behind 3rd place, so they're going to jump a good few positions, Red Bull. They'll definitely pass the likes of Solar Vision, Lightspeed as well, Virtual Drivers, Pashura, they could even pass them as well, but we'll get the championship standings at the end of the race for you. For now, it is the last lap, so we're going to stick with this battle for second, Lazarus versus Jota.
Yep, Tobin Lee's just got to keep his cool, not let the pressure get to him just for one more lap. So Sean Arnold's in striking distance, but he's not close enough to make a lunge under brakes, so as long as Tobin can keep his nose clean, he should be okay, but still a long way around. Say the last lap always feels like the longest.
Does indeed, and half a lap it is remaining then. Lazarus versus Jota. There's no need to take any huge risks here for Jota. It's early in the season, so the points would be much better for them at this stage, but if they get one sniff of an opportunity, you can guarantee they're going to go for it. You have to pay a lot of credit for a team we haven't talked a lot about, and that is Red Bull Racing Esports. They are so far ahead in the distance. They're actually catching one of the teams lower down the field. I think they're almost getting to the stage of lapping one of the cars at the back of the field. So Red Bull Racing absolutely flying at the moment, but it's getting close for second place then. Lazarus under all sorts of pressure now as they come onto the hanger straight. Are they going to have to go defensive here from Jota? Jota in the tow at the moment. They may be able to have a look up the inside going into Vale here. Jota, are they going to be able to get down the inside? Are Lazarus going to have to defend? It's going to be Red Bull Racing who take the win, but who's going to finish in second? Lazarus defending. Jota are going to come to the outside. It's going to come all the way down to Club Corner. Jota hang on around the outside, but they can't quite get up the inside. Up ahead, Red Bull Racing come across the line and they take the win. Round number 2, race 3 goes to Red Bull Racing. Second is Lazarus and third is Jota. Well, they were almost able to get up the inside going through Club there, but just ran out of road. Good defensive driving from Lazarus.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Jota and trying to make moves on the last corner of the last lap every time, but as unfortunately they find themselves in the wrong position again. They're the car trying to do the overtake rather than being the car in front at that point of the race already. But great race between the two of them. We saw one mistake from Sean Arnold, and that was enough to switch those positions, and that's the way it finished, similar to what we saw in the sprint race from Event 1, I believe. So, it's a case of they need to iron out those mistakes. As a team, Jota, it's not the first time we've seen a few mistakes from them, but again, congratulations to the Red Bull guys. Drove absolutely flawlessly, qualified flawlessly, and that's what we expected from Event 1, but they've now finally delivered in Event 2, and again, it's a real strong point for them to kick on in the endurance race, perhaps.
Yes, of course, there has been driver swaps between the first and second round, but I think it was just a case for Red Bull for them trying to find their feet, maybe in that first round, just settling in, and this second round they've come in very prepared, haven't they?
Yeah, it's what we expect. They're the FRC champions for a reason, and they've got a very strong driver lineup. Things just didn't go their way. That's how these events work. If things don't go your way, you get caught up in instance, that can be your race over. We've seen Jota pull off some stunning recovery drives, but sometimes you're not always able to deliver that. So they'll be very happy with this result. It puts them right back in the championship hunt. It'll move them right up the championship table, which is always going to be worth a bit more money, which they'll be very pleased about, but ultimately puts them, a bit more safe towards that top 6, which is the ultimate goal.
And we did have one incident at the start, didn't we? We saw kicking off in the background, but other than that, we looked like a pretty clean race, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few little incidents, but other than that, pretty clean.
Well, let's take a look back at the replays then. Harry, I'll hand over to you to talk us through the best moments of that sprint race.
Yeah, you can see in the background there just a few cars. That corner there, the loop, it really pinches through the apex. So although you try and go up the inside of someone, if they don't see you coming, then they turn in on you. It's very easy to get turned around, which unfortunately is what happened to, I think it might have been the Alien Motorsport car, although they did fight back later in the race anyway. And say Raging Dragon also come into a few issues at that point as well. But see, this is the point where Red Bull, already 4 laps in at that point, building their lead. So they come into camera angle and you're only just getting second or third into view. So they were driving flawlessly, no issues at all from their end. Team Fordzilla up into 5th place. No, a great qualifying from them. No, a much improved from the first event, which is great to see from their side of things. They put the pressure on the Fast Racers Forza team, but I don't think in the end we're able to make too much progress on that side of things. And say Sean Arnold here is 6th place in the Jota car. Lap 6, this is where the mistake happens through Magnus and Beck. It's just running a bit wide through the first section, which completely ruins the sequence of corners, as you can see. And that's what allows the Lazarus car to squeeze through on the racing line, which is where they stayed for the rest of the race. This is the Legion of Racers cars getting passed by, I'm not sure who that was, it might be Virtual Drivers perhaps making that move at the time, I'm not too sure, but again, little mistakes have always been costly, but there's your race winners, again, the Red Bull team. Tobin Lee and Jota and Sean Arnold in that car, no, nose to tail most of the time throughout that race. It's very difficult to make an overtake, we said it before, but because it's all medium and high speed corner, you've got to rely on mistakes from the car in front of you to try and get a run. But say the Red Bull car made no mistakes, the Jota car made one mistake which cost them position. They've done everything they can, including throwing the kitchen sink, but it didn't quite come off. Tried to hold it around the outside, but the Lazarus car just run it out wide and then rightfully kept that position to finish 2nd and 3rd.
So fair racing, you'd say at the end there. Nothing wrong with that, was there?
No, you're going to go around the outside. You can almost expect to be squeezed off. So Lazarus had every right to do that, and they did. And say that's what professional racers do. They know the limits of boundaries without crossing them.
Yeah, so sorry if we didn't get a huge amount of time to talk about every team during that race. The sprint races, they go by pretty quickly, but a 32-lapper is coming up next. Well, let us know your thoughts. That was the thoughts of Harry. Let us know your thoughts. Use the hashtag LMES. We're going to read out some comments in just a second, but we are going to take a look at the championship in just a second. The race results just being updated at the moment. The championships are just going to be updated, and then we'll take a little look at what that's done to that. We are still in the early stages, of course, but let's talk about what's coming up next, because it's a reverse grid, isn't it? The endurance, not a reverse grid of that result, a reverse grid of the championship standings.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the case. So it's giving these other guys a great chance, the ones who are low down the championship, to start at the front and try and hold off the faster cars. Now, Red Bull are probably looking at that thing. We're in prime position, and we know we're arguably the fastest car. I know at this track and this combination at the moment, and they get to start in front of Lazarus and Jota, who are the cars immediately behind them. So as long as they can work their way through the field, which is what they'll be aiming to do. Obviously, all the guys in front of them want to hold them up because they need those points valuably, almost more than the likes of Red Bull themselves. So it's always a bit touch and go, watching what are faster drivers and faster cars try and work their way through perhaps slower cars, if you want to put it that way. But it normally provides great racing and a lot of entertainment for us to watch.
Sorry for the slight delay. We do believe, I think there was a penalty being awarded to Solar Vision Racing. I think it might have been. So that is, in fact, going to be a 5-second penalty. It has just been confirmed in my ear. 5-second penalty for Solar Vision for contact. Not what you need, is it, in a sprint race particularly, because the gaps are a lot closer.
Well, that's exactly it. You've not got a lot of time to make up the time on other drivers. So 5 seconds is an awful lot of time in 10 laps. It's just under 20 minutes of racing. So we've seen Red Bull lucky enough to pull out that kind of gap, and they probably would even struggled to maintain the lead if they would have had a 5-second penalty, for example, and they drove flawlessly. So it's not ideal, but they've got to put it behind them. Going into the feature race, they can't let it bother them too much and make sure they get on and do the job in the next 32 laps that are coming up.
And was that what you expected in terms of the racing from Silverstone? I think we're going to see a lot more in this endurance because of that reverse grid. It put on a really good show for us when we were at the Circuit de la Sarthe, but very fast circuit, but there is some heavy braking zones which lead to overtaking, right? Yeah,
the likes of Brooklands and Stowe even, perhaps, if you get a run down the Hanger Straight and obviously into the new sort of village and loop section, those are the main points where you can make a move under braking. But anywhere else on the track, you've almost got to rely on the driver in front to make a mistake, which you can't afford to do, really. If you want to make progress, you normally want to try and make it happen yourself, but it's not always that easy.
Well, we're going to get into the updated championship results. Stay with us. Shortly after this, we'll be straight into the endurance race. So here we go. This is the championship standings after the sprint race, and the grid for the endurance will be a reverse grid of the standings. So Lazarus will be going off the back of the field. They're on 74 points at the moment. Lazarus and Jota are escaping from the rest of the field here. Jota on 63 points. Then it's Red Bull Racing. With that win, they go from 8th to 3rd in the standings. So you can see what a big result does for you. 40 points for them. Fast Racers Forza, their consistent season sees them in 4th. Pashura, damage limitation for them. They finish in in they're fifth place in the championship, with 33 points. Virtual Drivers hold the last qualifying spot at the moment with 29 points. Lightspeed Esports are 7th with 25 points, so only 4 points away from a qualifying position. Rise had a good race there. They're 8th place now in the championship with 18 points. And then we roll from 9th downwards. Of course, only the top 10 scored points, so some teams had no changes to their points. Solar Vision, after that penalty, they're now going to be 9th in the championship with 17 points. Team Fordzilla, pretty good run for them, so they gain a huge amount of points there. They only had 1 point before that. They're now on 11th. Boosts them up to 10th. Alien are 11th on 6th. VP Gaming, no changes to the points behind this, so it's still VP Gaming with 3, and then John Lacey, Legion of Racers, Team Highlands, Raging Dragon, all with 1 point. But everyone scores points in the next race. Only 1 point, though, from 11th down to 16th. So there we go, Harry. You managed to get it all written down in time there as well.
Just
so
about.
We know the reverse grid as well. But any surprises for you in terms of the changes there?
I mean, it's nice, I think, to see Red Bull doing as well as we thought they would want to do. So we've expected Lazarus and Jota to be sort of the front runners, and now it's nice that Red Bull have now joined the party, and so we've got a three-way fight essentially at the top of the pack. Obviously, the other guys are doing very good jobs. They're just not quite at that level that we see from those top three at this point. So they'll be looking to try and learn from them if they can into the next races, but obviously they've just got to do what they can for now.
Well, there we go. The endurance race is going to be coming up very, very shortly. But for now, while we're getting the race ready to go, we're going to take a very quick breather.
This modern circuit with all the hallmarks of an old-style track. Rising, diving, twisting, turning, off-camber, tricky track to master. Back horse, through he goes.
It's all particularly round outside. Getting got it. Oh, that was a bit tight.
How much did you get paid to do that advert, Harry? I saw you
You'd
in
like
there.
to know.
Sleeping.
Was like the guy that looked like he was sleeping. That was me.
It's what you like to do at Le Mans.
It is. You're right.
Well,
Good atmospheric noise to fall asleep to, just roaring engines. Probably better to watch, I'd imagine, but I wouldn't know. I'll hopefully find out this year.
Well, of course, you nearly fell asleep at the Super Final last time and got locked in a toilet as well. In a disabled toilet, I'd like to point out.
Yeah, I mean, needs must sometimes, isn't it? When you got a role to make sure you're back by a certain time and the queue is longer than you can imagine, sometimes you got to do what you need to do. But I got bit in the bum on that one by I got caught out by getting locked in it. So yeah, I think if you go back and watch, I don't know if it's race 3. I'm very hot, very red, and very sweaty, and that would be and very out of breath as well. As I'm getting asked questions, I can barely get 3 words out before needing to take a big gasp of air. So yeah, if you were wondering about what that was, there you go,
and
locked in a toilet.
You were hoping at that point that James was going to give you a little bit of time, but it was about 5 seconds.
Absolutely not.
Bang.
No, James knew what he was doing. He stitched me up.
Straight in with the first question. Well, for those of you who, of course, if you've just joined us, welcome for for the rest of you, thanks for being with us. Thanks for sending in your comments using hashtag LMES. We're going to get some of those on screen now. So Lightspeed Esports there, not the strongest start to our races today. We'll take 8th in race 1 and points where we can get them. Now on to the endurance race. So they're pretty happy so far. I think, again, not the happiest with their result, but 7th in the championship for them at the moment with 25 points. PTG Duffman, unlucky there, Jota. Great battle to the finish. Couldn't agree more. Brilliant racing all the way to the end. Glad you guys are enjoying it as much as we are. And then let's get one more on screen. JSR, Aid the Ace said, watching the Le Mans Esports Pro Series and Bathurst 12-hour at the same time. A great way to spend a Saturday night. Well, that's going to make Will Tregurtha, one of our race directors, a little bit jealous as well, because I know he was dying to watch some kangaroos and race cars on circuit as well. But there we go. Everyone, of course, enjoying the action. Harry, yourself as well. We got the endurance race coming up next, and we've got a little bit of a twist with the endurance race as well. I think we're allowed to mention it now, but it's going to be raining. Yeah,
so they're going to be looking at starting in light rain and then moving into heavy rain, I believe, and then we're hoping it's going to clear up towards the end to sort of throw all the variables at them if they can handle it. So, they've obviously got used to the dry conditions in qualifying and the sprint race, and I think they've only just found out that this is happening. So we're going to see who can adapt the best. Now, it's a very big part of a driver's skill is how well they can adapt to changing conditions or just even completely different conditions. So I don't know how many of them have done practice in the wet. I don't imagine many of them would. If they've not been told about it, they've got to think on their own 2 feet. But we'll see who makes it work and who doesn't.
And we've had some big changes to the championship as well, with the likes of Red Bull going up, but they're now going to have to start all the way at the back of the field. And for anyone that's not had a great season so far, this is a good chance for them in the wet. Of course, if you're towards the back, you're going to struggle with a bit of spray, but this is a good chance for them to try and go and get a good result.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The vision and spray and everything like that is going to be a real hindrance to those teams. The top of the championship team starting at the back, and it almost plays into the hands of the teams lower down in the championship, because it means they've got an extra benefit to their position. They're not just starting at the front with the fast guys behind. They're starting in the front with an extra advantage of almost like a smoke screen behind them, if you will, and they're making it even harder for those guys to try and pass them. Obviously, they've got to make sure they keep themselves pointing in the right direction to begin with. That's the main target, because obviously no assists with these cars and these drivers using, so they've got to manage the wheel spin out these slow corners exceptionally well, because otherwise you might be seeing a few more spinners that we saw in the sprint race.
And how about these cars, these Mazdas? How hard are they to drive in the wet? And not only these cars, but Silverstone as a track.
Silverstone, I mean, it's medium and high-speed corners, so you're relying on the car to do a lot of the work for you. You've got all the downforce piled on with the big wings and everything, and the bodywork and the under tray and everything like that. So you're hoping the car's being sucked to the ground nicely. So even though it's a bit slippery, your tyres are doing the job, and you're travelling fast enough to not be too worried. But obviously, if you get into aquaplaning at high speed, then you're going to really be in trouble. And obviously, the low-speed corners, traction's even harder to find. It's easier to pinch a brake on the way in as well. So we might see a few cars running wide with a lock-up or having to get off the throttle. I think that's what we saw with early on in the sprint race, the Lazarus car getting out of shape out of the loop section through wheel spin, and that's in the dry. So these guys have really got to be careful with a damp and then a wet track. But so they have to feel their way in. They can't go guns blazing into the start, because obviously they don't want to throw away an endurance race potential, but they need to try and make up as many positions as possible while the grid is nice and compact.
Well, you didn't get it right first time. I'm going to ask you this before we go into the grid. Give me a team.
Red Bull.
Red Bull again, from the back all the way to the front. How about that? Right, let's go into the grid. Don't forget, this is the reverse order of the current championship standings. So here we go then. Rage and Dragon Esports, 16th in the championship, but they're going to have the benefit of being at the front in the wet around Silverstone GP. Team Highlands alongside them. Row number 2 then, it's going to be Legion of Racers and the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. A chance for them to get some valuable points here. Likewise, VPGaming.de and Alien Motorsport. Then in 7th place, it's going to be Team Fordzilla, and in 8th place it's going to be Solar Vision Racing. 9th place is going to be Rise Motorsport. They are on the rise at the moment. Let's see if they can keep that going. Lightspeed Esports will be in 10th place, and then the 6 teams who currently hold the 6 qualifying spots. Virtual Drivers by TX3, Pashura Motor Center Esports. Then we go to row number 7, which is going to be Fast Racers Forza, Red Bull Racing Esports, who took the win in race number 1, and then the 2 championship leaders, Jota Esport and Lazarus Racing. Right, here we go. Expect wet conditions. 32 laps is off. Here we go then, and at the back of the field there we can see the likes of Rise Motorsport trying to get up the order, but is it a clean start at the front? We're looking at Rise there, who had just tapped into the back there of, I think that may have been the Pashura team, as they now come down towards Village for the first time. Oh, and a little bit of contact and a spin there. One of the teams going round. VP Gaming have unfortunately gone round. I think Raging Dragon may have run into some problems as well. Rise, that looked like, who were recovering. We've got one of the teams escaping out front, everyone else through. So 3 teams hitting problems at the moment. Jota currently sit down in 15th place. It's Team Highlands Racing, just like they did in the endurance race at the last round. They're leading the way at the moment. We're looking at Legion of Racers here, who are just getting a little bit out of shape. They're in 5th place at the moment, are Legion of Racers, as they now head down through Woodcote for the first time. Red Bull Racing there making a couple of positions so far. It looks like they've kept themselves fairly out of trouble. So a few teams already in the wars on this opening lap as we go on board with Red Bull Racing, who have got all the way up to 9th place.
Yeah, great start for them. You see the rain is now falling on the screen, so they are having to adapt. That might have been what caused the few incidents that we saw at the start. It's so easy to do. You go into the first braking zone with cold tyres, unknown conditions and how the car's going to react, and unfortunately just coming together. Concertina effect took out 2 or 3 cars. We'll have a look to see who they were. Perhaps obviously probably the cars towards the back of the grid is where they're going to be. But at the moment, Red Bull and Lazarus as well making good progress, and Lazarus having a driver change as well, which we should mention. I believe that's Dan Nyman replacing Tobin Lee, so he'll be looking to step in. We've got cars side by side coming into the final few corners of the first lap.
Yeah, that looks like, I think that might be Solar Vision Racing, who are side by side. Is it? Oh, there's a little bit of contact as we go on board with Red Bull Racing. Brilliant move there from Red Bull Racing, the switchback, and that is going to be 3 cars for 1 as they come out of the final corner. Fantastic stuff there. Team Fordzilla it is just in behind. I think it was Legion of Racers we were originally looking at, but Red Bull Racing have gone past them and a couple of others as well. Lazarus are involved in this fight as well. Up ahead, Team Highlands lead from Alien Motorsport. I think it is in 2nd place, but it's all going off ahead of us. Here we can see the Lazarus car getting up the top half of the order. Oh no, the contact, and Lazarus just about holding on. That was Legion of Racers going into the side of them. Lazarus get it pointed back in the right direction just in time, but they could lose a place here to Virtual Drivers by TX3, who come down the inside, and that is a place by Virtual Drivers TX3. This is going to put them into 8th position, or is it? Lazarus hold on round the outside, brave stuff from them, and they go back into 8th place.
Yeah, great driving from a whole host of drivers there. First off, we've got the Red Bull Aurelian Mallow making a fantastic move. They're just extremely clever driving to see the car in front. I think it was the Virtual Drivers by TX3 car that nudged one of the cars in front of them, and they saw it unfolding that they were going to go run wide and then run wide on the second part, and they just undercut the lot of them and made up 3 places in one corner. Beautiful bit of driving. And so with these conditions, it's so easy just to pinch a brake and run a bit further into the braking zone you want, tap the rear of another car, which we saw Lazarus unfortunately getting clipped by that Virtual Drivers car as well. And then thankfully for them, they managed to catch it. But it looks like Red Bull got another run on someone else here, so they're making up more positions already.
Yes, Team Highlands Racing they're having a look at, but we're just going a little bit further back behind this. That's Lazarus trying to get up the inside of Team Fordzilla. This is for 7th place. Ahead of this is Red Bull Racing, then trying to get past former race leaders Team Highlands. It's now Alien from Jean Lacey, and I didn't quite catch who that was in 3rd place, so we'll come back to that in just a second. But here is Red Bull. They have gone past Team Highlands. They now go into 5th place, and now they're behind the number 32 car of Solar Vision Racing. They're going to try and line up a move potentially into Village here as they come through turn number 1, just behind the Red Bull car. This is the battle for what I think is now 7th place, and indeed it is. Team Fordzilla, oh, we get all out of shape there through turn number 2, and Fordzilla could lose a place here. Lazarus have indeed gone by, so good driving there from the Fordzilla car to just about hold on.
Yeah, absolutely. A massive save at that kind of speed. I think race stewards might have a look to see if there was any contact that forced the Fordzilla car to get out of shape there. And obviously they've lost the position because of that. So they'll have to look to see if there's any contact that caused it. But if not, great save by them. But obviously Lazarus will take that position all day long, provided they're allowed to keep it. But Red Bull are on an absolute march at the moment.
Yeah, Alien Motorsport out front doing great. They're taking benefit of all of this. They've just kept their noses clean, and they are dropping the pack at the moment, but they are going to have a hard-charging Red Bull coming after them very, very shortly, as Red Bull there trying to go into 2nd place. They've already taken 3 cars in 1. Can they do 2 for 1 here through turn number through Cops Corner? Not quite. So Red Bull Racing stay in 4th for the time being. So this is good driving, this, from the Red Bull car. The further you get up the order, of course, the harder it gets to make positions. Jean Lacey Esports Academy are in 3rd place. Solar Vision Racing are then in 2nd place. And on board with Red Bull, they're going to pull down the outside there. And that's going to be a move into Stowe Corner, potentially, for Red Bull to go into 3rd. Under braking, are they going to try and hang around the outside? Yes, they are. Red Bull into 3rd place in the wet conditions, round the outside. How about that?
Beautiful stuff. Aurelian's on an absolute mad one at the moment, isn't he? He's putting off moves left, right and centre, just catching people. So the car in front, the second place car also making a mistake. They're going wide at the final corner. I think it might be another place where Red Bull squeezing up the inside. Although I think they've just they have made the move, so they're up into second now. So they're just taking places like candy from a baby at the moment. And they really adapt to these conditions brilliantly. The setup they've obviously got in the cars working well. They just have so much confidence on the exit of these high-speed corners. They get the power down so early, and they get the drive down the straights, and come the braking zones or the turning points, they're already through.
You can see the green and black livery car. That's Fast Racers Forza. They're on a charge at the moment, Fast Racers Forza. They're doing very, very well. They're coming up the order as well. They started in 13th place, and Fast Racers Forza at the moment are already into 4th place. And as we stay on board with Red Bull in the background, you may see a green and black car appear down the inside. There you can see it just behind the Solar Vision car, I think that is. And there we go, Fast Racers Forza. Oh no, there's a little bit of contact there. And in the background, is that the Lazarus car trying to take advantage? It is, and the Lazarus car goes through. Oh, is there a spinner? It looks like there may have been some contact in the background. Well, Lazarus have gone through. That's going to put them into 3rd place. Fast Racers Forza go into 4th place, so they did make a place in the end, and I think that's Solar Vision running wide in the background.
Yeah, I think they're getting caught out by the rain coming down harder and harder, so the track conditions are changing lap by lap, almost corner by corner at this point, so they're getting sort of used to what happened the lap before, thinking, right, I need to go in a bit quicker there because I was a bit too courteous on the throttle, should we say, and then they get to it the next lap, and they're going in too fast again almost. It's like they need to adapt better than anyone else. Red Bull are doing that at the moment. Lazarus are trying to follow them through, but you see Jota Commander down in 10th at the moment. A driver and a team that we expect to be towards the front. Red Bull have done it, Lazarus have done it. They're struggling again, unfortunately, for them.
Yeah, well, unfortunate that for Jota, but there is a long way to go. Let's not forget the progress was slow last time, mostly due to an incident they had early on in the race. Jacob Bokit went into the wall at Circuit de la Sarthe, and from there came back to finish 3rd place. But this is on board the race leader, Alien Motorsport. Look how fast Red Bull Racing are going, just carrying so much speed. That's a confidence thing, isn't it, Harry? Just able to carry so much more speed in the wet through very fast corners. And I think this is going to be a change for the lead. We'll get the thoughts of Harry in just a second, because Red Bull are about to perform a switchback move for the lead. And there you go. Alien Motorsport will drop to 2nd. Red Bull Racing have taken the lead. It's taken them less than 5 laps to do it. But Red Bull Racing have gone all the way from the back of the field up to the front of the field. They started in 14th place and they now lead the way. Fantastic stuff from Red Bull.
Yeah, I'm running out of superlatives to describe this drive by Aurelian at the moment. So every overtake that he's made in this race so far is pretty much a textbook that you can show to people who want to know about racing and overtaking. Go, this is how you do it, this is how you make an overtake, this is how you read a situation into a race, and this is how you capitalise from it. And say 14th to 1st in less than 5 laps is absolutely incredible. So they've adapted to conditions perfectly, and say Lazarus needs to try and get into 2nd place and stay with them if they can, almost try and tag onto the slipstream if they really try hard enough. But at the moment they're down in 4th still. They've still got Solar Vision Racing and the Alien Motorsport car between them and Red Bull, so early days still, of course. We've still got a pit stop at least, but at this stage it's looking ominous.
Alien, this is a great job for them. They were 8th and 10th at the first round. They were 11th in the championship coming into this race. So I believe their best result so far is 8th. Oh, but side-by-side action there. We'll come back to that in just a second. I think that was the Lazarus car getting past Solar Vision Racing. There was almost a bit of contact. Maybe there would have been a fraction of it, but Lazarus have gone through. But as I said, Alien, 8th place, I think their best result of the season so far. They've got a really good chance to improve on that here.
They have, but at the moment they're falling through the field a little bit. Obviously Red Bull have come and passed them. Lazarus now on their way. So worth mentioning, great move by Dan Nyman there. Similar to what we saw Aurelian do the lap before. Maybe a little bit easier. I think the Solar Vision car got a bit out of shape on the sort of being pinched on the inside of Stowe corner, but nevertheless, going around the outside of any corner is a great move, let alone a high-speed one like Stowe. So superb stuff, and already on the back of the Alien car looking to snatch 2nd from them as soon as possible.
Yep, Lazarus coming through the field very quickly, and I think I see Team Fordzilla in the background. Is that, let's wait and see, or is that the Solar Vision car still holding off? We got Fast Racers Forza, in fact it is, of course. They were looking ominous to go into 2nd place earlier, but they're trying to close in on Solar Vision Racing at the moment. So that is the battle a little bit further back, and there we can see the Alien Motorsport car now in 2nd place, of course, under all sorts of pressure here. It's probably best for them to just allow Lazarus to go through and minimise the amount of time lost, right? Yeah,
you're not wrong at all. I say if you know the car behind you is generally faster, they run a bit wide at Copse Corner, and that'll. I'm sure they've done that on purpose. I'm sure they've listened to you, Chris. So that's why that's why they've done that. They've taken your advice on board immediately.
In a fraction of a second.
But what you're saying is absolutely true. Sometimes it is the case. Rather than losing seconds per lap trying to fight the position, if you just let the car go and then hold on to the slipstream, you can find yourself being in a better position come the end of the race. You might lose in the short term, but long-term benefit is outrageous sometimes. You see the Joker car getting in amongst the battles now as they look to try and follow suit with Red Bull and Lazarus, showing them how it's done already from back to front.
Yeah, this is a battle going on a little bit further down the field involving the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. They're in 8th place at the moment. The greenish car ahead of them, there's the virtual drivers by TX3 team. They are just ahead at the moment as coming in. They've got the Jota car there, as you said. Not making fast progress, but can they get the switch back here on the Jean Alesi car and go through? So this is the queue for 7th being led by virtual drivers by TX3. In terms of the championship, they are in 6th at the moment. They were 4th, coming into today. So they had a brilliant first round, but around the outside, Jota there, side by side with Jean Alesi, and that's going to be Jota up a place and into what I think is going to be 8th place now. So Jota go into 8th, Jean Alesi down to 9th, and then I think this is the Bashura car who, contact there. Jean Alesi Esports Academy go round. I think that was the Bashura car who made contact. The Jean Alesi team are going to drop all the way down to the back of the field, and a huge shame there for the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. A bad day goes even worse.
Yeah, so race stewards are going to be onto that one to have a look now, if whether it was the case of the Jean Alesi car crossing the line or if the Bashura car sort of just tapped the rear end of them. Obviously, there was contact, but it's a case of who initiated that contact, whether it was a move across from the car in front or if the car behind sort of drove into the rear quarter panel. But disaster for them. No, it is an endurance race, there's still time, but track position's everything in any kind of race, really.
Well, of course, we've got a professional race driver, Will Sugartha, on the case when it gets to the driver stewarding, so I'm sure he'll have a good look at that one. But shame for the Jean Alesi team. They're going to drop now down to the back of the field, but there's still a long way to go in this race. It's only lap 7 of 32. How hard is it? In fact, I'll ask you that in a second, because in the background there may have been a move going on there between Solar Vision. Not quite in the end, but how hard is it not to let your head drop, Harry, and try and pick yourself back up and try and fight back a good result?
It is difficult. It looks like it's the Alien Motorsport car back to lose fight off a position, try and hold on to the. No, they can't. Jota going around the outside, so doing a great job there. So that's what they wanted to do in the first race, but Lazarus didn't allow them, but they've been allowed to do it this race so far, and they'll be looking to crack on. That's actually the virtual drivers, sorry. They do look very similar, but I will take blame for that because I'm terrible at that kind of thing.
Even though we did practice.
Yeah, let's say practice makes perfect apparently, but I argue. But yeah, that was the move they were hoping to pull off on Lazarus at the end of the first race. They obviously got their elbows out a bit more than the virtual drivers car, but it's that point in the race we think, is it worth me having contact and spinning around like the Jean Alesi car, or is it worth just playing my cards right, letting them go through and hold on to the slipstream if possible? But that's Jota up to 6th. They're now slowly starting to make the kind of progress they were hoping to have made, I'm sure, earlier on in this race. But at the moment, Red Bull out front doing a very good job. Lazarus obviously trying to hold on to them if they can, but the distance about 500 foot at the moment. Now coming down, obviously that's going to fluctuate depending on the braking zones and where they are on track. But again, it's going similar to race 1 at the point in time with Red Bull leading the way. But some great battles up and down the field though. Drivers making their way through the fields and mistakes creeping in at this difficult point with the race, with the weather the way it is.
Well, there we can see the Jota car. So the order: Red Bull Racing lead from Lazarus, Fast Racing Sports, Alien Motorsport in 4th place. Then it is Team Fordzilla, Jota next along. Then it's Virtual Drivers by TX3, Rise. Then we have Bashura in 9th. Then we have next along the team we are looking at, which is Lightspeed Esports. They are just outside of the top 10 at the moment, and we are on board with them. We'll get through the rest of the order in just a second, because it looks like Lightspeed are under all sorts of pressure here from Solar Vision Racing. Solar Vision Racing trying to get down the inside. Behind this is Team Highlands Racing, so this is a 3-race scrap for 10th place at the moment. Then we have Jean Alesi, Legion of Racers, and then at the very back of the field is VP Gaming at the moment. We have lost a team, unfortunately. Not sure who that is just yet, but we'll confirm that in just a second. But this is Lightspeed Esports. They had a great first round, came into this 6th in the championship after a 7th and a 5th at round number 1, but they dropped down the standings after race number 1. But this is they've kind of been a team that they've been very consistent, sort of there or thereabouts in terms of the top 3. But not as good around as they had at the opening race. They have had that off, but other than that, just trying to recover, I guess.
Yeah, so we need to look at the damage. Obviously, if they picked anything up around this kind of circuit, it's really going to hurt them. You need as much sort of peak downforce and consistency as possible. With the weather the way it is as well, any kind of damage is really sort of multiplied in terms of how much it hurts you. You see the Solar Vision car all over the back of them. They're in a bit of a difficult position themselves. They're looking to take a position, but also having to defend a little bit from Team Highlands, who have maybe dropped off a little bit just for now. But say Solar Vision will be hoping to make the move sooner rather than later, especially if they know that Lightspeed car's been off and got damaged. They won't want to be held up any more than they currently are being, because say they're right under the rear wing.
Yeah, Solar Vision, who are 9th in the standings, so they're not a huge distance away here from being inside that top 6. Of course, there is 5 rounds. This is only round number 2, so 10 races in total. This race number 4. But Solar Vision will be desperate to just keep consistent, try and make maybe a couple of places in this race to get closer to that top 6. It's really a case in a championship like this, isn't it, Harry, where you have to be in a top, X amount of positions. Just consistency, just staying out of trouble.
Yeah, so it's not always about, look how close they're getting there. They really do want to get that position as soon as possible. They're trying everything they can, but say we've said it before, it's a difficult track to pass on. So if Lightspeed can keep the car pointing in the right direction, just hit all the apexes they need to, and focus mostly on probably the exits of the corner, so they're not going to be under pressure coming into the next corner after that. They should be okay. But yeah, for the entire championship as a whole, as you mentioned, consistency is king. It's always nice winning a race, but there's no point winning a race and then having a DNF in the endurance race. Now, you might have won the sprint race and got 25 points, but if you DNF this race, you only get maybe 1 point, whereas if you win this race, you get 38 points compared to 25 from the first race. So this really is the key race. Sprint race is always nice, it's a short race, quick bundle of points under your belt if you can, but this is where the most amount of points are going to be won and lost. So this is where you want to be, fighting for it.
Yeah, of course, at the Team's Invitational, it was win it or bin it. That was the approach. That became literal at the last corner, of course. But this not quite the case here. It's just try and keep consistent throughout the series, and this an important fight really, because it's just outside of the top 6 at the moment. They fight for 7th place. There we can see in the background, in fact, just a little bit further back than that, of course. There we can see Rise Motorsport. We're going to now. They're a little bit further up the field. Chris Cabrera in the car for them for both races today. Rise Motorsport, who are doing pretty well, coming up the table. They're 8th place now at the moment. They were 9th coming into this weekend in the standings. Their best result at round number 1 was 7th place. So at the moment, Rise Motorsport not too far away from improving on that in 8th place at the moment. This is Lightspeed though, looking back at Solar Vision Racing. It's the battle for 10th and 11th places. Team Highlands are next along behind this. It's a 4-second lead for Red Bull Racing, so they've definitely extended that since we last checked in. But back to Rise, they're just behind Virtual Drivers by TX3 at the moment. Yeah,
lovely paint job on that Rise car. And it's almost like the car's been stitched together with the way that the white dotted lines work. It's a beautiful thing to look at. It's like the rear brake disc glowing red hot under the dusky sun in the distance. So the rain's still falling though. It's a case of they're up the inside, they're going through the little kink of Braintree, I think that was, now down the Wellington Straight. So they're going to be side by side. They've got the inside line though, which is where they want to be. Can they pull it off under braking? I think they won't be fought too hard. It's hanging on though, around the outside of the Virtual Drivers car. Of course, they just want me to eat my words. As they're still side by side, coming around the old final corner, Luffield and then into Woodcote is what's next. See the rain falling ever harder. Lights turn on, which really shows you how hard it's falling. The fog is rolling in as well. So these guys are really going to be pushed to the limits of what they can adapt to now.
It's like a Sky Electric race, isn't it? As Rise Motorsport trying to go around the outside. It's getting really wet now as they come through Cops Corner. So after all that hard work, Rise still stay back in 8th place. But Virtual Drivers by TX3, it seems like they've been in 7th the whole time. They remain in that 7th position. But these guys are being closed in by Pashura, I think it is, just behind, who are getting closer and closer. And let's not forget, Pashura were 3rd at the end of the first round. And side by side, here we go. I think Virtual Drivers by TX3 got a bad run there, and Rise goes through. So it's 7th place for Rise Motorsport, and it could get worse for the Virtual Drivers by TX3 team as Pashura comes driving down the inside. There was a little bit of contact there, but just behind this, I think Pashura have gone through. We will see it in just a second as they come into shot. Looks like Virtual Drivers are just ahead, or are they? Pashura running a little bit wide here. Behind this, it's all going off. We're on board at the moment with the Rise team, but let's wait and see what's going on behind. And Pashura indeed have got through. So Pashura on the recovery here. They're now up into 8th place.
Yeah, bold move that one. So they really slung it on the inside. A bit of contact was made, so I'm sure we'll be looking at that behind the scenes as well to see if there's anything worthy of looking at and dealing out in terms of penalties. But these conditions have really turned for the worse. You can see it was the virtual drivers by TX3 car getting out of shape through Maggotts and Beckett's for the run down hanger straight, hanging the tail end out as they tried to get the power down, which lost them all their momentum. That's the biggest problem. You see this corner in particular in the flat, no real issues, but when it's wet, it's so treacherous and so dangerous. And when you throw aquaplaning and puddles into the mix as well, it really is a nightmare for these drivers. But they've got to adapt as best as possible. So you've got to adjust your line as well. Racing line's going to be slippy in the wet. You've got to try and find where the grip is, but not run off into the aquaplaning zones as well. It's a learning point of the race, I think, for these guys. They've got the next few laps to learn where's the worst conditions, where's the most amount of water, where can I go, where can't I go, and then they're going to have to put that into practice over the next, let's say, 10 laps or so while the conditions are still as bad as they are.
Well, while we're still on board with Bashira, Harry, why don't you talk us through the last half a lap here at Mount Silverstone?
Yeah, so Copse in different corners, running wide, what was the old turn one. It's a corner that you always want to throw the car in at maximum speed and quickly find out it doesn't want to go through at that sort of speed, and you end up running wide. Maggotts and Beckett's, an always slowing sequence of corners. Now you've got to make sure you're pretty much compromising the entry of every part of it to focus on the exit of the next part. This is where the virtual driver car lost it on the previous lap, which caused all the melee that we saw. But getting a run out of there is so crucial as we come down the hanger straight, because it's always a great overtaking opportunity down into Stowe if you can make it work. Not the biggest of braking zones, but if you get your car in the right position, you can always make a move. You can see two cars. It's still the virtual driver's car, and is that Bashira? They're still fighting perhaps as they come through there. It is Rise. So.
Is that Lightspeed?
It's Lightspeed.
Yeah,
third time lucky. Lightspeed coming to join the mix as well. So another
guys.
another position lost by virtual drivers at the same part of the track. They're obviously really struggling in these conditions, and to be honest, I'm not surprised. Although they are pulling off a nice undercut there potentially, but side by side through that part of the track is always dangerous as well, as they're out wide even further. But it's so difficult to get two cars through there, in these conditions especially. And now three of them fighting. So I might just put my hands over my eyes and try not watch what's going to happen.
Lightspeed Esports, of course, and just behind that is Solar Vision Racing as well. We're on board with the virtual drivers team. This is on board with Rise, I believe, but we've got Solar Vision in there as well. In fact, Lightspeed Esports it is, of course. They come to the outside. Solar Vision now trying to get the cut back, but can't quite get through. So it's Lightspeed Esports trying to hold on round the outside. They've got Solar Vision now coming to the inside, but Lightspeed Esports have the run down the outside of the virtual drivers team. So three cars, almost three abreast here. It is virtual drivers from Lightspeed Esports, and then just behind that, Solar Vision Racing. Oh, and a big bit of a spin there. Virtual drivers going to the side of Lightspeed Esports. That sets off a chain reaction as they go into the side of Solar Vision. Solar Vision return the favour there as they come through Luffield, and they're still going to be side by side as they now come through Woodcote and down towards Copse Corner. Well, in towards Copse we go. Lightspeed Esports stuck on the outside. Solar Vision are going to run wide, and it's going to be Lightspeed Esports who get back through, are they? So Solar Vision, I think, just about held position. So I almost forgot what position we were fighting for there. So it's 10th now for Solar Vision. Then it is Virtual Drivers in 9th place, and then behind that in 11th is the Lightspeed Esports team. Well, it's all going to go off again, I'm sure, as we get down to Stowe Corner. You can see the spray there coming out of the back of the Virtual Drivers by TX3 car. Behind this, as we said, it's straight into the back. Big mistake by Solar Vision. And Virtual Drivers car has gone round. The Virtual Drivers by TX3 team sent into a spin by Solar Vision. Lightspeed Esports are going to pick up the pieces and go up to 9th place, and Solar Vision did wait up to allow the team to go back through, the Virtual Drivers team to go back through. We have the first of our pit stops going on as well. So I think I'm hearing that might have been the Team Highlands Racing. I think have dropped down. So Jota it is, I'm hearing, who have gone into the pits. But what a lap that was.
Yeah, I mean, elbows out and the rest, I think, is what we can say. It's so difficult to say, where you want to put your car, but when you're fighting with someone and they put their car in a position that you want to be, you're left with no option other than to go on a part of the track that is dangerous and is treacherous. We see the big puddles laying around the circuit. That's when you see the big splashes of water. When the cars are in that part of the track, they've got no grip, they've got no controls.
Still going off.
Yeah, of course they are. They love it. We love it. It's great, but they need to behave themselves. Obviously, we've seen the incident happen. Just, I think,
into a spin! Virtual Drivers into the puddle, and round they go, and all on their own this time. Virtual Drivers facing the wrong way now down the Wellington Straight. Solar Vision were nowhere near them that time. Straight into the puddle, and that just shows how horrific the conditions are out there.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that puddle forming the lap before when they were fighting, and I was wondering if anyone's going to find themselves over there trying to defend, and they were the next lap. I say it's almost like a suction point. You drive into it, it just hooks the car completely off the circuit, and you see how little control they had, and a full 720. So top marks for pirouette skills, but in terms of points, they're not going to be getting too many, unfortunately.
I was going to say, for the virtual drivers team from Marshall Kubert, that was the worst camera angle because it was a reverse camera angle, so he can't exactly say someone hit him into a spin down the straight. He literally spun down the straight on his own, but courtesy of a massive puddle. But Jota are the first of the front runners to come in. We'll try and keep on top of who has pitted and who hasn't as best we can, but well, we didn't even, it was all going off, we didn't really get time to talk about it as much, but we're coming up to half race distance now, so do we expect a flurry of pit stops, do you reckon, in the next lap or two?
Yeah, I think the drivers are going to have to sort of look at where they are on track, who they're fighting with, what the gaps are, and whether they want to try and come in early and try and get away from the people they're fighting, or go longer and try and overcut some of the guys who may be pitting around them. Okay, no, at this stage, if you're going to be looking at pit on the early side of things, the benefit you get from that is going to be that you're not in the pits as long because you haven't got as much fuel to put in the car because you've still got a little bit left.
Yep.
If you go longer, of course, you get the benefit of having a lighter car for a few laps, but you're then going to be in the pits longer because you've got to put more fuel in it. Although, of course, you have got less laps to do at that point. So there is a real trade-off that I'm sure they've done a lot of homework on. But as I say, this track is becoming more and more treacherous now as the laps go by. But one car that seems to be unfazed by it all is the Red Bull car.
Yeah, they're going to be lapping cars very shortly. In fact, I'll take that back. They're about half a lap behind. But Red Bull Racing, I wouldn't be surprised if we got to that stage because they are absolutely flying. Over 5 seconds clear from the Lazarus car, and then it's a further 5 seconds back, 4.5 make that to the team in third place there. So they're absolutely running away there. I think it's Fast Racers Forza who are in third place at the moment. They're having a fantastic race, are they? But having an even better race here is Red Bull, and I wonder if this will be the lap they come into the pits. Let's wait and find out. Team Fordzilla is fourth, by the way. Then it's Alien in fifth, Rise is sixth, Pashura seventh, Lightspeed are in eighth, Solar Vision ninth, Highlands, Jota, TX3, who had that spin, are 12th, and then with his Legion of Races, the Jean Lacey team, and then at the very back of the field there we have VP Gaming.
Yeah, so VP Gaming, I think, were one of the cars that caught out early on with an incident, and obviously
turned into a spin,
the damage that they probably accumulated from that, plus the conditions aren't helping. But I say, these guys at the front going as long as they can by the looks of things. Obviously, they want to get over half distance to make sure that they're safe to make it to the end of the race at that point with the fuel and everything they've got on board. But I say, although they're looking comfortable up front, this Red Bull car, we've seen how easy it is to make mistakes at the better times in the dry, let alone when you've also got the aquaplaning and the puddles and everything else that you've thrown at you. As they sooner or later they are going to come across the lapped cars, and you'd hope they're all going to be compliant with them in terms of letting them through in a safe manner, but it's not always the easiest thing to do when you know that going offline is going to potentially cause you issues, and neither of them will want to do it, whether it's the lapping car or the car being lapped.
Yeah, I should say for VP Gaming we won't really see much of them with the damage. It looks like they may be carrying the 9th and 11th for them at the first round, so they are capable of being fighting inside the top 10. I believe in one of those races as well, if I remember correctly, they had an incident. But the biggest improvers, I think it's fair to say, between rounds 1 and 2. Team Fordzilla, 15th in the championship with a 12th and 15th at round number 1. And here they are in third place after moving up the championship, of course, up to 10th place, gaining 10 points in that first race, which meant they finished in 5th. So 5th place, and now they're in third.
Yeah, Christian's doing a great job. They've had a fantastic sprint race and now running third at this point of the endurance race as well, I believe. So, again, adapting well to the conditions. Just watching the way he's driving, especially through the Brooklands and Luffield section. I know from experience there's usually some puddles that form on the inside of the left-hander and then on the outside of it as you then go into the right. And it's then adapting to take a wider line in to then have sort of running the middle of the road through the exit of the corner to avoid both of the aquaplaning spots. So it's one of them things that you have to adapt to when the weather changes, and they're doing a great job and they're getting rewarded with it with the current third place.
Well, the teams didn't know that it was going to be wet conditions, so you can see this is a real test of skill, and drivers who may have just practiced in the wet. Of course, a lot of guys will go do as much practice as they can in the wet, but you can see the drivers that enjoy the wet conditions and the ones who don't. Yourself, were you someone who enjoyed racing in the wet, or did you prefer the dry conditions?
I mean, the wet's always fun.
In competition, I mean, of course.
Competition, I mean, driving in the wet when you're the car in front is always great because you've got the ability to see properly. But we've got a few other cars in the pits. We've just crossed over the halfway point, so that's to be expected. I think it might be the Lightspeed car potentially in the pit lane. So they're looking.
Can you tell?
No, not the best view I've ever seen, but I'm being told it's Lightspeed with my telepathic abilities that I've got. So, yeah, there's another car in the pit lane. It's a brick wall apparently, but no, it's getting to that point where they want to be coming in. They know it's just over half distance. It's probably the best average between time spent in the pit lane, lap time on lower fuel. It's probably the right point to be doing so, as we're now looking at the fast racers, Forza cars struggling through the slow speed stuff, because that's where the car's always going to struggle. Low speed, where the downforce doesn't work, you're relying on mechanical grip. And this car, while it's a great car, a fantastic car to drive, it does struggle at low speed, and then when you throw in the weather as well, it really is like trying to tame a bull.
Yeah, well, there you can see, and we're talking of a bull, there's one leading, isn't there? The Red Bull racing car. There we go, had that one lined up. This is the Lightspeed Esports car, running a different livery for this round as well, to pay tribute to the, of course, the bushfires going on out in Australia. So one of the drivers, of course, over from that part of the globe, they decided to run a special livery for that for this round, as you can see. So had to go through a couple of different versions. I hear the first one wasn't quite suitable, but they got there after a couple of attempts. But good stuff from them to pay tribute to that. Right, so let's get back to what we're seeing on screen then. Here we can see the Pashura car, third in the championship coming in to this round. But they've been tested, I think, fair to say, in this second round, a lot more than they did last time. The first round, they were 11th and 2nd, so they really took advantage in that second place. But Pashura out there doing a good job at the moment. But looks like plenty of teams have now come into the pits.
Yeah, no, it's to be expected, as we keep saying at this point, where they've got used to these conditions by now. It's a case of strapping on a new set of boots in terms of the tyres and loading the car back up with fuel. Always makes it more difficult to drive, of course, lugging around that extra bit of weight, especially in these conditions, as we keep saying. But it's the same boat for everyone. They're all going to be experiencing it, so it's a case of getting on and doing the job as best as possible. And obviously, we're seeing who can cope and who can't at the moment.
And boats they are indeed at the moment, aren't they?
Yes, they need to get their oars out.
How many more are we going to have this race? It looks like Alien have come in, so Alien Motorsport into the pits. We saw a flash of that. Red Bull have not. I think they're in a place at the moment where they're just trying to get their lead as high as possible so they come out in some clean air and don't have to come through some traffic. I think they're trying to wait for everyone else to pit and then they'll pit.
Yeah, clever thing to do, really. You don't want to be compromising your race when you're at the front leading comfortably as they are at the moment. You don't want to drop yourself back in behind someone who there's no right being in front of you, essentially, when you're the net race leader. It is a case of, they'll go probably as long as they can. They know that if they do that, no one will be able to go longer than them, so they're not going to run the risk of coming up behind anyone at all at that stage. And Aurelian looks pretty comfortable out there. So there's a few drivers that are looking pretty comfortable. One of them isn't the VP Gaming car. We can see it just running off wide. I think probably getting out the way of the Alien Motorsport car there just about. But even in these conditions, it's difficult to get out of the way of someone, because you go off the racing line and you find yourself off the track with the aquaplaning.
Lazarus are in to the pits, by the way, so Lazarus, who are our championship leaders, have come in. They are in second place on track at the moment. This is Alien Motorsport, who are just getting better and better in this series. I know it's only round number 2, but 8th and 10th for them at the first round. They moved up to 11th in the championship after that first race, and they're just showing that they got even more pace within them, running in 7th place here. So they've been into the pits as well, have Alien Motorsport. I'm not sure we can say. I know Jota and Fast Races Forza, I believe, have been in. So most cars ahead of them have. There you can see Lazarus now leaving the pit lane, but they've got a chance of a top 5 finish potentially there, have Alien Motorsport. And who is that they've just come out behind Lazarus? That is the Rise car. So Rise go up to second, yet to pit, of course. Rise Motorsport, they're having a pretty good race as well. I think they're doing the same thing, waiting for later in the race, so when they come out, they know exactly where they are and what their situation is.
Yeah, I think the Lazarus team probably looking to do the opposite of what Red Bull do. If they stay out, come in. If they come in, stay out. They need to do something to try and work the gap to their favour. It's just unfortunate for them that they've come out behind a car that they're fighting for position, so it's not going to jump out of their way for them. They're actually going to be held up unless they can make a move stick, but that's really unfortunate for them. But I say Red Bull probably won't know that necessarily, so they won't know that the Lazarus car is potentially being held up. But so at the moment, I wouldn't say necessarily being held up, so to speak. They're not sitting on the coattails of that one in front, but the Rise car's got every right to be there, and it shall stay there as long as possible, I imagine.
It's just not going to do good things for the viewers, isn't it? The spray is going to be quite a distraction, I think, for the Lazarus team there. They're in third place at the moment, and here we can see on board with them now through Meggetts and Beckett's, just behind the Rise team. They'll want to clear them out of the way as quickly as possible. Red Bull Racing are in the pits, so Red Bull have come in. Now we'll see exactly what the situation is with Lazarus. They've come in. Red Bull are about to come out of the pits. Let's see exactly what the gap is. I'm sure we'll keep an eye on Red Bull. We'll get a a shot of them when they're leaving the pits, hopefully, and they're still in the pit lane at the moment. I'm being told they're still in the pits, so the gap getting closer here, and now they are on their way out. So just being told that they are leaving the pits at the moment, so it is about the length of the start-finish straight and a bit more. That is the gap in terms of distance, and we'll get a gap in terms of seconds very shortly. So there they come. Plans work perfectly, hasn't it? Stay out as long as possible, come out and back in the lead.
Yeah, no problems for them at all. And say the problems have come for Lazarus, which is exactly what they didn't need. For us, it's getting very deep under brakes there as the Lazarus car running out a little bit wide. There's the puddle on the exit of turn 3, which they need to stay away from. They're pushing their luck. They're quite close with that, but they need to at this point. They need to clear this Rise car. The problem for them is if they do clear it within, let's say, the next lap, it's just going to peel off into the bits anyway, and it'll be like, I'm really glad you did that. Thanks, mate. But, you know, it's all part of racing. It happens, you know, especially in these kinds of races where the weather's thrown at you and pit stops are thrown at you and driver changes are thrown at you. It's all parts you've got to deal with to the best of your ability.
I wonder where Rise are going to come back out. I think Virtual Drivers by TX3 may have just come in. I saw them dropping down the order. But they're up 6 positions at the moment, all right, so they're having a pretty good race so far. I wonder where this will put them out. Will it put them out behind the likes of Fordzilla and so on, just outside of the top 6? Unfortunately, we have had a retirement. VPGaming.de seemed that they were perhaps carrying too much damage to that car, and unfortunately they are out of this race, but we'll see them back next round, and they've still got something to fight for, no doubt. Of course, top 6 overall and some prize money as well. So we are now looking at the Lazarus team trying to get past this Rise car, flashing the lights now as well, but unable to get past here as they come down to Stoke.
I think the lights going off is maybe a signal that the rain's starting to ease up a little bit. So if they're going around the outside, let's not actually take our eyes off of that, because that's a beautiful move. They can pull that off as the Rise car typically goes in the pit lane.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I was going in the pits anyway.
I'm sure there was no hand gestures out the window from the Lazarus cars. That was happening as you've held me up for 2 laps and now gone into the pits as I'm coming past you anyway. But yeah, I think the rain looks like it might have stopped, if not completely, then mostly at this stage. So we'll have a look to see how the track conditions change at this point, as we've got the Jota car up the inside of the Fast Racers Forza car into the final chicane.
I think that's Fast Racers Forza. Had they gone round there, it looked like from a different angle they may have gone round. I'm sure we'll pick that up in just a second, but Jota have gone into 4th place. What about Fast Racers Forza? Were they tipped into a spin? No, well, Rise are dropping back, of course. They're in the pits, but well, it looks like they're only a little bit behind, but for a second there I thought Fast Racers Forza were in a big bit of trouble, but Jota, a good move.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Fast Racers Forza car maybe just got onto the AstroTurf, which obviously in these days is very, very slippery, and as they just squeezed the throttle pedal a little bit, it just lit the rear tyres up, and thankfully they didn't T-bone the Jota car on its way through the right-handed part of the chicane, but I think they've just about got away with it.
Well, if we go back behind this Jota car, we'll see a battle is now forming with the Fast Racers Forza, so they have to go from dealing with one team to dealing with another in the shape of Team Fordzilla. And there we can see Fordzilla already trying to move down the inside, some contact there, drifting once again are the Fast Racers Forza team now as they come through Woodcote. So Fast Racers Forza under all sorts of pressure here. They had just had Jota come past and got a little bit out of shape in the process, and now Team Fordzilla with an ambitious move there down the inside into Luffield. Through Copse we go now. They're going to wait for the hanger straight, I'm sure. We can't try and move through Maggots and Beckett's. It's almost impossible unless the guy in front makes a mistake, but Team Fordzilla will be waiting now for that hanger straight to try and make a move into Stowe Corner. So it's all about the exit now through here, through turn 14 we go, and now down the straight down towards Stowe Corner. You can see Fast Racers Forza were weaving slightly there, just trying to break the toe a little bit or avoiding puddles, maybe a combination of the two, but Fordzilla for now stay in behind.
Yeah, it's a nice little trick by Fordzilla that they're trying. Luffield is essentially a 180-degree corner, which you go sort of wide through the mid part to then get a nice straight exit. So I think Fordzilla car was just sort of putting his nose in there to try and make sure they couldn't get the best run out of the corner, which has allowed them to stay on the coattails down the old pit straight through the rest of the lap. But they're still just about there. You can just about see them through the spray. Obviously, turn the lights off now. It's like a sneak attack is what they're planning.
Well, here we go then. Through turn number 2 we go in towards Village. Are they going to try and move down the inside? They're looking left, they're looking right. Fordzilla are going to stay behind for the time being. Are they going to be able to get the switch back here through the loop? Let's have a look. Fast Racers Forza take the tight line, but tighten it on the exit as well. So Fordzilla have to stay behind. Don't go to the inside, please. You'll find yourself spinning round courtesy of a huge puddle on the inside of the Wellington Straight. both stay to the outside. So are they going to try this move again, I wonder? It's, of course, as you said, you've got to take that wide line and then cut back. Let's see if Fordzilla try the same thing this time. This will be a nice angle of it. Not quite, but Fast Racers Sports are stay in front for the time being.
Yeah, I think they learnt their lesson from last lap to make sure they don't go too wide. No, they don't need to go that wide to be able to get the run out, because they've got just about enough of a gap to make sure they're not going to be putting themselves in a dangerous position for that kind of move to happen. So the biggest problem they've got at the moment is obviously, these curbs are still very treacherous in the wet conditions. So although it's not raining, they do hold the water still, even when the rain has stopped falling. Track's still quite saturated at this point. Still lots of puddles hanging around. So they're still struggling for traction. They're still struggling with their braking zones, and I say they just need to try and wait for that little sort of mistake, the tail hanging out from the car in front, to know that they've got a real chance. But at the moment, Fast Racers Forza are doing a good enough job at the moment to stay in front of the Team Fordzilla car.
And you can say, of course, as you pointed out a couple of laps ago, the rain's stopped now. So how difficult is it from your experience to adjust to not a track that's getting more wet, but a track that's drying?
Yeah, so you've got to, ultimately you need to know the game and how it works and how it adapts to those kind of physics, and what the usual length of time is, what the conditions are reading, and obviously you need to adjust to the track conditions. Ultimately, that's what makes you go around the track as fast as possible. It doesn't seem to have changed too much. Also, we're getting very close under braking through at turn 1 there. Thankfully, no contacts. If there was contact at that point, there'd be no recovering that one. But so they're just trying everything they can. Got to watch out for the aquaplaning zone on the exit of this corner, which they're looking to try and basically set up the biggest switchback that you can possibly imagine. It looks like they're not quite going to be able to manage it entirely at this point, but depending on the traction goes, they might be in a position to make a move down into Brooklands.
Fast Racers Forza almost stopping the car on the apex through the loop there, just to cut off any switchback move whatsoever. Down the Wellington straight we go, and Fordzilla almost trying to fill the mirrors there, I think, of the Fast Racers Forza car, as they now come up towards Luffield. This for the 23rd time of 32 laps, and Fordzilla really struggling here. Fast Racers Sports are putting up a stern defence and just trying to spot who that is in the background. Rise Motorsport. Now, if the battle stays this intense to the end, I think Rise Motorsport could find themselves getting involved in this as well. And that will be a three-way scrap then for third place, which would be a very interesting one indeed. Solar Vision Racing have received their final warning, so they've got to stay out of trouble now. So Solar Vision Racing, who are down the order at the moment, down in 10th place, having dropped 3 places so far in this one. They need to keep themselves out of trouble to the end now. But this is the battle for 4th place. We're still between Fast Racers Sports at Fordzilla, and I won't call them part of the battle, but they could be if it stays like this. Rise Motorsport do need to keep one eye on them as well.
Yeah, I'm sure the Team Forza car is probably aware of that. They need to make this move sooner rather than later, because if not, they're going to have to worry about what's behind them rather than what's in front of them. So the track conditions do seem to be getting a little better now. The aquaplaning zones seem to be dying down, so they're getting more usage out of the track and the lines that they can use to maximise their braking and their traction out of the corners. But ultimately, they need to be working on trying to set up this move if they can, because I say it's getting difficult. They've been in the same position for the last 2 or 3 laps and nothing seems to be changing too much, but they've had enough time to sort of work out where the possible weak zones are of that Fast Racers Forza car. But at the moment they can't put anything to good use to make the move, but staying there, putting the pressure on is always a good tactic as well.
Sometimes it's better to be the car behind when it's like this, isn't it, in these conditions, because you almost just let the car in front take the risks and ultimately make the mistakes. Yeah,
it is normally the case. When you get changing conditions, it's the car that comes to it first is always the one that's in the most danger. So yeah, if you're following a car closely, you can react to how they're reacting basically. If they're going a bit faster, you see them running wide, then you need to be coming off the throttle perhaps, or just tapping the brake just a little bit to stop the rolling momentum of the car. But at the moment they're both doing a great job. The pressure not getting to the Fast Racers Forza car, but the Forza car make sure they keep that pressure on to try and force a mistake. We're going to see who's going to brake first.
Bar the conditions changing, nothing else has changed. It looks as if, in fact, they're running a little bit wide through Cops Corner there where Fast Racers Forza, but Fordzilla unable to take advantage of that, weren't giving any opportunities to do so. But they do seem just a little bit closer than they have been on the last couple of laps as they now come down the Hanger Straight. So are we potentially going to see a challenge this time? I think Fordzilla are in that position where half a chance has to be taken.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no doubt that if they made the move, they would be able to pull away and not be under pressure from that Fast Racers Forza car. But catching's one thing, overtaking's another. We know that well enough in motorsport. But at the moment, they've done the hard part. They've got onto the tail of that car in front, but they just can't force them into a mistake, and they're not making any mistakes themselves. So frustrating for the Fordzilla guys.
Just going a little bit further back then. This is Team Highlands Racing battling away with Virtual Drivers by TX3, who of course spun round earlier in the race coming down the Wellington Straight, courtesy of a huge puddle on the inside of the circuit. But Virtual Drivers by TX3 have the run. They're going to pull alongside, and that is Fordzilla who have got past, I think. So Fordzilla, I think, may have made that move there. So it took quite a while to do it, but I think Fordzilla are now through, and indeed they are. So but they run up right onto the AstroTurf, and Fast Racers Forza are going to try and get back alongside down the Wellington Straight here. So we didn't quite see where the move was complete in the end, but Fordzilla have made that move. Now we see, was Fast Racers Forza holding them up, or was it a case of Fordzilla just being able to hold on? Fast Racers Forza may respond here, may stay with them, and may reapply the pressure.
Yeah, Christian Pop needs to get into his own rhythm now. Now that he's got a clear track in front of him, he hasn't got the luxury of following another car around the racetrack and not having to sort of do the driving aspect of that himself. He's got to forge his own path now, essentially. So it's probably the overtaking place that is most likely to happen down into that heavy braking zone and village, and then the arena section, the loop. That's where the cars are at their slowest point around this racetrack, and it's easy to sort of manipulate a move around there. We've seen them try it a few laps before, not coming off there, but obviously it looks like that's where they've made the move, and coming down the Wellington Straight. A little bit of rubbing, nose to tail, but they got away with it, and now they'll be looking to push on and try and build a gap to make sure they can start driving their own race again, not having to look in their rearview mirror too often.
It looks like Rice have definitely got closer with that move being made, but you can see now a wider line being taken by Fast Racers Forza, and can they make a move now coming down towards the final couple of corners? Fordzilla have been forced to go defensive into Vale. Now through Club Corner we go. Fast Racers Forza may just be able to sneak alongside here. There was almost contact as we came through the final corner there. Fast Racers Forza sensibly just backing out of that one, and Fordzilla stay in 4th place. So now just behind in 6th and closing in is that Rise Motorsport car. So, 2 cars battling in this has been exciting enough. Imagine when we add a 3rd into the mix. Fordzilla will be hoping they catch up almost. That may give them a chance to get a break, but Fast Racers Forza, it seems, in the last few corners have just lost touch with that Fordzilla car.
Yeah, I mean, that Fast Racers Forza car with the line it took through Stowe really opened up an opportunity into the Vale and Club section. It always makes me wince when I see 2 cars try and go side by side through the final part of Club. It's like, you're lucky enough to get 1 car through that full throttle most of the time. You try and squeeze 2 through then, you know you're going to end up asking for trouble. So thankfully they backed out of it, and they've settled in behind to see what they can do now, being the following car. But as you say, if the Rise car catches up too soon, then they'll have to be looking behind rather than in front.
Well, this is Team Highlands Racing versus Jean Alesi at the moment. We're on board with the Jean Alesi car looking to the outside. You can see there at number 27, the Jean Alesi Esports Academy team. Team Highlands just ahead of them, the black and white livery colour. The team that was created over in New Zealand. Here you can see the Jean Alesi car is going to pull down the inside here. So Jean Alesi now side by side as they come down towards Brooklands, and that's going to be move complete. Team Highlands may try and fight it round the outside, but Jean Alesi doing the right thing and not running them out of road, but just convincing them to back out of that one. So up to 12th for the Jean Alesi team.
Yeah, great move. Now, being up the inside is one thing, but you've got to spot the braking zone. You've got to make sure you don't go in too deep and cause no contact with the outside car that's trying to hang on around the outside. But no, good driving by the pair of them. They knew sort of essentially how that was going to work out. They kept it clean, and they'll live to fight another day. And hopefully, for the Team Highlands, they'll be able to fight back if they can.
Well, this is the battle for 4th, which has... I guess you can take the battle word out of that sentence now. It has really calmed down, hasn't it, between these guys, Team Fordzilla. You can see them, they've got just enough of a gap over Fast Racers Forza to not look in their mirrors, but Fast Racers Forza close enough. If one mistake is made, they'll be right with them. Let's look in the background and see if we can see the Rise team. Of course, they were catching this battle, but since the battle has stopped, I think that gap looks to have stabilised now, but there is still some time remaining in this. We've still got 5 laps to go, so Team Fordzilla, 4th place. This is going to be a fantastic result for them. I think we've talked quite a bit about them throughout this event so far, but coming into this 15th in the championship, best result of 12th. They moved up to 10th with 5th place in race number 1. This is going to be a 4th place finish if they stay where they are in race number 2. That's going to give them 18 points, put them what is that, 29 points. It's going to boost them up the order, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it puts them in the mix for the next few races to think a 6th place finish is possible. No, it's all it takes is one good race to really change your championship, especially at this early stage. we've still got a matter of 4 or 5 laps at this point, so we don't want to speak too early and put the curse on them, as they're now coming under pressure from the Fast Racers Force car. That's your fault, Chris, not mine, I'm sure. But they've got a defensive job to do now.
Yeah, Fast Racers Forza sell the dummy, and they're going to come down the inside into Stowe. Brilliant bit of overtaking potentially there, but Fast Racers Forza not quite able to do it well. It was almost textbook stuff, but it was a very good attempt that from Fast Racers Forza, who are currently 4th in the championship, so they're having a very consistent season so far. Their best result of the first round was 4th place, and at the moment they're trying to match that with a good result here as they come down the start-finish straight. The pressure once again is on. That will bring smiles to the guys of Rise Motorsport. That might start bringing them closer to this, but are they going to be able to get down the inside going into Village? We wait and see if a car comes flying down the inside. No, it doesn't. Well, Fordzilla definitely running wide there, so Fast Racers Forza must be alongside somewhere. They are. They're going to try and get the switchback out of the loop. There was a little bit of contact there as Fordzilla just got a little bit sideways, and Fast Racers Forza were almost able to get... Oh, and Fordzilla have gone round. Fordzilla off into the barriers there. Fast Racers Forza will go through into 4th place. That'll put Rise into 5th place. An absolute disaster for the Fordzilla team there. It's all gone wrong for them, unfortunately. We didn't quite catch how it happened, but Fordzilla, we caught the ending, that's for sure, and they dropped to 6th place, I think, so they've got away with, in fact, that's for sure, isn't it, now ahead of them as well, so they've dropped a few positions. They've dropped to 7th place, in fact. Could be worse, but not good news.
No, so at this stage, I'd call it a disaster for them. They've driven superbly throughout the sprint race and this feature race, endurance race as well, and unfortunately, I think it's just through the little left kink coming onto the Wempton Straight. I think we saw the Fast Racers Forza guys looking to sort of get the switch back and get their nose up the inside, and I'm wondering if there was just a bit of the Forza guys are trying to sort of take the normal racing line, not realise the Fast Racers Forza car is alongside them, or at least got their nose up the inside, and then unfortunately that kind of speed and that turning momentum, if there's a little bit of contact around, they've got into the barrier, and just hopefully for them the damage isn't too bad on the rear end of that car, because I say if you damage the rear of these cars, you're going to be dealing with massive oversteer, which around this track you don't want at all.
I'm sure it'll be getting looked into, and then any update we have on the incident itself, we will bring to you straight away. But as you said, Fordzilla, they're a real shame for them. They've now got some work to do. Here's our race leaders. As we said, when you're not seen a lot in a race, it means you've either done very, very good or very, very badly. And for Red Bull, it is the first of those two. They have done superbly so far today, and once again they lead the race.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them where we looked at the first race and saw how dominant they were in that, in the dry conditions. There's a few crumbs of comfort for us. We looked at the wet weather and thought, oh, well, maybe that's going to throw a spanner in the works. Starting from 14th place as well, they've got to fight their way through. And after they start on lap 5, they're in the lead again and driving off into quite literally the sunset at this point. So, I'm sure they'll look at this and go, that's what we want. That's what we are as a team, and that's what we can do. The first event they've obviously firmly put behind them. And now with Aurelian behind the wheel for both of these races, they really showed everyone what they could do. Obviously, we came into this event looking at Jota and Lazarus as potentially the two favourites at this stage. After one event and the Autosport International event where they've done very well, we didn't see Red Bull at the Autosport event. We didn't see them really turn up to the first event, but they turned up here, as well as Fordzilla, now back on the attack and trying to make up what they can and what they can salvage in the last sort of 2.5 laps or so.
So it's trying to pick up the pieces now for Team Fordzilla, and it's Pashura who is going to be first on the list for them. Pashura, who've put on a good recovery, I think it's fair to say, in this race to get themselves back up to 6th place. They've driven very well, showing why they were 3rd in the championship coming into round number 2. But Fordzilla, it's now all focus on them, if you like. After that spin, can they get themselves back up the order a little bit? They've only dropped to 7th place, so it's not a disaster, but of course they'll still leave disappointed, I'm sure. Pashura will be first on the list for them. There's only 3 laps to go when they cross the line next time, as Red Bull are now on lap number 30 of 32. So Red Bull doing a brilliant job out front. We have to give huge credit to Jota and Lazarus for continuing to get to that high bar that they set for themselves at round 1. They've repeated that again, and they'll sure be at the first and second in the championship in some order when we get to the end of this race. But what about Fordzilla? 15th at the end of round 1 in the championship, 10th coming into this race. If they can get some good points here at the end, they will glow up the order even further, I'm sure. So 9 points is what they had, is what they'll get in 7th place. As now they get a toe on Pashura. They're going to pull alongside down the Wellington Straight, and are Fordzilla going to be able to make this move? Let's see. Pashura, will they try and hold on round the outside through Brooklands? No, they tuck back in behind, and Fordzilla go into 6th place then. So Team Fordzilla, that's going to give them 12 points. It means they're 6 points less off than they would have been if they were to be in 4th place. So not a huge disaster, but still a disappointment.
No, so we'll have to obviously assess come the end of this this series as to whether those 6 points are going to play a part in where they finish overall. As I say, 6 points in the early stages never sounds like too much of a problem, but come the last race you think, oh, if we had those extra 6 points, it's not just an extra position, it might be extra money. No, there's a lot of things riding on potentially 6 points, but I'm really, Christian's done a great job. He's had an accident, whether it's his own fault or if there's conduct in the car, we'll have to try and find out. But thankfully, he's not let the red mist descend and gone after another car and thought, right, well, I've been bullied off the track potentially, so I'm going to bully you back, and had another crash and just escalated things worse. He's made a brilliantly clean move, waited to the right time to do it, made it clean, and the Pashura car also making sure that they're racing fairly. Last few laps, it's always easy to sort of overly defend and overly commit and make mistakes and get a little bit. I know they say Rubbin's racing, but you can also be a bit too hard in that aspect. So, great racing by the pair of them. They're going to be fighting out to the end, I'm sure. We'll have to see who comes out on top and finishes in that 6th place.
Well, Alien Motorsport are next along for Fordzilla, and I think that gap's going to be too large, surely in 2 laps to close down. I might be wrong here, because Fordzilla are closing that gap. You can see visually, you don't even have to look at a gap, you can see that is coming down, isn't it, between Alien and Fordzilla, but I think it might just be a gap too far, but there's no doubt in the Fordzilla car there, Christian's going to be absolutely fired up.
Yeah, man on a mission is probably the best way to put it. You show a man who's had a crash, and lost positions, a car in front of him for a few seconds ahead, and think, that's like a ball to a red flag essentially, isn't it? It's like that they're going to be going after it and he'll be giving it everything he can. So I'll be cheering him on. No, I don't want the car in front obviously to feel like I'm favouring anyone, but after the race 2 races they've had to have it taken away with an accident so close to the end of the feature race, they deserve a bit of good fortune at this point, I think.
Here is Red Bull. Unlike West Ham, Harry, Red Bull do know how to hang on to the
Thanks,
lead,
mate.
and they're doing that pretty well at the moment. But is this on board Fordzilla? No, Fordzilla are ahead of us, and just ahead of that is the Alien car, and I think they're going to be safe for the time being. If anything, I think we're not giving enough to Pashura here. Pashura are within distance to claim this place back, aren't they, at the moment? They've got that pressure on Fordzilla. We've been focused so much on Fordzilla moving forward, but Pashura are still within arm's length.
Yeah, another car who's also sort of correct on the radar is probably the Joker car. I think we last saw them really fighting around 8th place, but they made that early pit stop, remember, around lap 14 or 15, I think it was, way before anyone else came in, and then before we knew it, everyone had made a pit stop, and they emerged 3rd. They sort of undercut everyone at that point. But also, worth pointing out as well, the Red Bull car is somewhere on its last lap and about to take a 2 out of 2 after 2 fantastic drives and putting them right back on the radar in terms of the championship.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic day. Here they are, Red Bull Racing. What a race it has been for them. Aurélien Mallet has jumped in the seat for both of them, so his one of 2 sprint and endurance races have both been ticked off, so he's halfway through what could be 2 races of each for his campaign. But Red Bull Racing, they were 4th and 9th at the first round, and coming into this weekend they were 8th in the championship. But at the end of the day, it is going to be 2 points top score for Red Bull Racing. They're going to be the first team to take both a sprint and endurance win on the same day. Round the final corner they come, and Red Bull Racing take the endurance victory at round number 2. Brilliant drive from Aurélien Mallet. They were 3rd in the championship. Where will that put them? It was almost a lights to flag. Coming through the final corner, Lazarus are going to finish in 2nd, and Jota are going to finish in 3rd place. So Jota and Lazarus continuing their brilliant form, but Red Bull, what a turnaround it's been since round 1.
Yeah, we saw some beautiful overtaking in that race. It's not a case of, they turn up to these races and just dominate from start to finish. No, arguably the first one they did, but the second one, they're starting from 14th, dealing with the conditions, and within 5 laps they've passed 13 cars with Musa up the inside, the outside, 2 cars, 3 cars at once. So they've done pretty much everything they needed to do, and they put on a great show. So although they dominated, and almost, I'm sure some people would label that as a boring performance. No, they went into the lead and sort of disappeared, but they had to really earn it in that second race, and they pulled off some great moves. So take nothing away from how dominant they were. They were excellent is the best superlative I can come up for them. That doesn't quite do them justice, though.
We'll get more from Harry in just a second. Let us know what you thought of that race using hashtag LMES. We're going to read some of your views out in just a second, as well as go through the championship as well. But for now, we're going to take a very quick breather. We're going to actually look at one of the partners who help us put on these live events. We get fantastic equipment we get to use both at the Super Final last year and Autosport as well. We're going to get the same again at the Super Final this year. Partly that is thanks to Playseat. Here's an insight on what they're able to provide us. Right. Well, there we go. Brilliant stuff from Play. So did you have a go on yourself on the equipment at Autosport or at the Super Final?
I did, and I loved it. Now, I've got a fair bit of experience in terms of using equipment and driving seats and whatnot, and now I had absolutely no complaints at all. Now, I sat in them rigs and to have a little bit of mess around, obviously prove to myself that I was nowhere near as good as these guys that we see racing around on the tracks and cars and games that they have here. But no, from my experience, I loved every second of sitting in the gaming seats in particular. They provide everything that you need. No, you can't ask for much more than that.
And these as well. These are awesome. So I'd love one of these at home. So Playseat, if you think I've done a good enough job, send me one, please. I'll give you my address. But brilliant race too there. We'll take a look back at some of the highlights in just a second, because it was a hectic race, wasn't it? For an endurance race, it was probably even more hectic than the sprint race.
Yeah, I know it was the best part of an hour, but it certainly didn't feel that way for me. No, it felt like when we raced about half an hour. There's always something going on. Whether it doesn't always have to be at the front, but when you've got quality drivers like we have here and quality teams, there's always a fight to be had, and they always go looking, because there's always something to fight for. Now, it's not a case of I'm in 12th place and I'm only looking at maybe scoring 1 point, and if I gain 11th place I don't gain anything, I still get 1 point. But it's the ultimate thing of, in the long run, there's always a financial value for each position you gain. So yeah, okay, maybe those points aren't really worth it, but it's still nice to have fun sometimes with people that you think, we're only getting a point anyway at this point, why not just have a bit of a laugh and race each other as hard as possible, and if you have a bit of coming together, so be it. But obviously you don't want to be going too far with that kind of thing, which we didn't see, thankfully. We saw a lot of good racing, hard racing, and some great overtakes.
Well, as they say, it could be 13th today, but in a year that could be, in a few months, even at the Super Final, that could be first. So it's worth every position, isn't it? Fighting it like it's for the lead.
Yeah, everything is always a bit of practice. Now, even if it's in a competition event, you always got to practice now, because a lot of time you spend practicing at home for these events. You do a lot of qualifying and racing practice, but the actual ability to race with other drivers is always few and far between. You never want to give anything away before an event, so normally you only find yourself racing against those kind of guys in these events itself. So practice always makes perfect, and they make every opportunity count.
Well, I'm sure people heard enough of what I had to say in that race. So Harry, I'll hand over to you now. We'll look through some of the best highlights from the race.
Yeah, so the start was a little bit chaotic, sort of further down the field. I think this is the incident with the VP Gaming, so you got Lightspeed involved in there as well. So I think they just got pinched on the inside, and then unfortunately couldn't quite make the turning circle, and ended up sort of going across the track and taking a few cars with them. But this was a popular overtaking point down into Brooklands and Luffield, especially on the first lap with the weather falling, everyone trying to get used to it. It was always a bit chaotic. Here's a move by Red Bull where they get 3 in 1. They've seen the incident going on ahead and the cars rejoining, and they've just sort of nipped under everyone at the second apex. It really is textbook. That is something that it's hard to teach people how to read a race situation like that. Here's a Lazarus car getting a bit sideways with the Legion of Racers car as well, but later on finding no problems getting past the virtual drives by TX3 around the outside of Luffield. Brooklands into Luffield, just about holding on, despite the fight back. Red Bull again, lap 3. You can see how far up the field they are already at this point. It really was a masterclass in how to not just overtake people, but just get the job done the first time of asking. None of this going for an overtake and going too deep and then having to re-overtake someone. They made every move count. And especially, as we keep saying, with these difficult changing conditions, they made every move count every time they got the opportunity, and they showed everyone how to do it. It was always a difficult race for everyone involved, with the rain falling more and more as the race goes on. The puddles started forming, the aquaplaning started to begin, which I'm sure we'll see as these highlights roll on. But Red Bull were on an absolute move as they obviously ended up overtaking the Alien Motorsport car for the lead on lap 5. There is the move, getting the switchback done through the first sector around the Village and Loop section. And at that point, they were in the lead and they were home and dry, essentially. Little did we know at that point in the race it'd be so easy for them, but they made it look that way right up until the end. But say Alien Motorsport done well. No, they were leading early on the first sort of 4 or 5 laps, but unfortunately they then fell through the field a little bit. And as the faster guys started making their way through, and the rain started to play havoc with everyone's racing lines and braking points, Jota, another one who sort of struggled. We know they're a fast team. We know they've got a great selection of drivers, but they sort of struggled early on to make their way through. But they obviously utilised the pit stop, to make sure they got towards the front of where they wanted to be. And they came on with a 3rd place, another podium. So excellent stuff for them.
Yeah, well, we've got plenty of replays. It's just because how many highlights there were, isn't it? It was absolutely chaotic. But Harry, it was around this point, wasn't it? This is when the weather really started to change. There you can see the change of shot there. How did that change the racing, in your opinion?
I mean, it puts puddles on parts of the circuit, where obviously, if you've got a bit of a camber to the circuit, you're going to have lakes forming. That's where the first point it really got heavy through Maggots and Beckett's, and it caught pretty much the first car out that approached it. It was unfortunately the virtual driver's car, which then sort of set off this beautiful bit of race between them and the Lightspeed and the Solar Vision car, I think it was, which
went on forever.
Yeah, it felt that way certainly, but it was beautiful to watch because they were all respectful. There's a little bit of rubbing and racing, that kind of thing happens, especially in these kind of conditions. But you can see nose to tail. That's where the aquaplaning happens on the exit of that corner. That's why they got so sideways and ended up, thankfully, unlike the first lap incident, they didn't take each other completely out. It was just a little coming together, but side by side, still half a lap later in these conditions, they got to be mad or mental, one of the two, but it seems to work for them.
Well, that was a dress rehearsal, wasn't it, for virtual drivers? Because any second now, we're going to see the point where they spun round. There was a spin a little bit further round the circuit, but of course there was that was the point where Solar Vision went straight into the side of them, but that wasn't the only time we'd see a spin. This was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they're right on the inside, and you'll see just there the big splash of the water. As it's something that I would like to have thought they would have acknowledged maybe. But say, as a driver, when these conditions happen, you've got to be on the lookout for where the puddles are forming. You need to stay away from them. So I'm sure they'll be disappointed that they didn't see that earlier on. And obviously, it's hard to predict where you're going to find yourself in a lap's time, but they would have known surely that they didn't need to be that far over to the inside. Obviously, you want to protect the inside, but if you know that puddle's there, you don't go there. It's simple as that, and no one else did, thankfully, for their sake.
I wonder with virtual drivers, because they had such a good first round. They came into this 4th in the championship. They were 3rd and 6th at that first round, and just really didn't go well for them here. Now we look back at the replays, it really shows they had a pretty torrid race.
Yeah, and it does happen, though, even though it happens to the best when we saw Red Bull. They've dominated this event. The first event, unfortunately, I was not going to say they were nowhere, but compared to this race, they were nowhere. They were, I think they had a 4th place, which it's a good result, but compared to what they've achieved here today, that's not really anything they would be expecting. So it just goes to show, each event has to be taken one at a time. You can't just rest on your laurels and saying, we've got good drivers, we've got a good team, we know we're going to get a good result, because it doesn't always happen that way.
And any second now, this is the battle we had entertaining us to the end, wasn't it? Fordzilla here battling away for 4th place. So this was one that lasted for a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
this was fast races Forza, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so unfortunately, I don't know if they came to blows and which caused the incident, or if the Forza car just maybe got hooked on the curb on the exit coming out of here. I don't know if it's this lap or one of the next laps, but you can see this is the exit of that little left kink on lap 28. So I'm wondering if there's either contact or they just went a bit wide, got the wheels hooked over the curb and tried to turn in. It just flips the car around, so they had no chance of saving that, whatever. But they fought on, and obviously in the end, Red Bull were the winners and brought it home relatively comfortable despite everything that was thrown at them with weather and overtakes galore.
Well, there we go. This is what it's done to the championship. So thanks for that, Harry. Great analysis as ever. And this is how the championship looks at the end of round number 2. So Lazarus, it still is who lead the way. Lazarus came into this championship leaders today, and they leave championship leaders as well, albeit with a bigger gap at the front over Jota, who are on 86 points. But Red Bull Racing, as we said, they were 8th in the championship and some 41 points behind Lazarus coming into today. They have gone all the way up to 3rd place. So brilliant stuff from them, and they've closed that gap down as well. Pashura still 4th place. It looked like they were having problems at times, but they managed to nail out some good results. Fast Racers Forza, very, very good day for them. Likewise, Rise put themselves up into 6th place. They were 9th coming into today. Now they are 6th. Virtual Drivers by TX3, they had some dramas in the second race, but they are 7th. Lightspeed Esports, they were entertaining us throughout that endurance race. They are 8th place, and they're only 10 points away from a top 6. Then we have Team Fordzilla. Unfortunate for them, it could have been so much better, but 9th place, they're right back into play. They had 1 point at the end of round 1 after 2 races, and now they've gained 22 points. So ones to watch for round 3, I think it's fair to say Team Fordzilla. Solar Vision were next, and then the rest of the runners. We have Alien Motorsport there, and unfortunately the likes of VP Gaming, Jean Lacey Esports Academy, Team Highlands Racing, Legion of Racers, and Raging Dragons, their season really yet to get started, but they've shown glimpses of being able to fight towards the front. And I think yet again the reverse grid in the endurance race there, just putting on a brilliant show.
Absolutely. I think, obviously we talk a lot about the weather. I think even without the weather playing a part, we would have still had a fascinating, interesting race with the guys putting on a great show, no matter whether they were in the championship or they're top or the bottom. There's a thing, regards to, there's a little bit of a gulf, I think, down to about 11th place and then below. There's a little bit of a gulf in points, which is going to be quite difficult to bridge, I think, for the teams over the next few races. But we have seen how quickly these things can change. Fordzilla example, Red Bull example, you have one good event like today, you put yourself right back on the map. And if these teams carry on doing that over the next few events and next few races, it can all change. So, we'll have to keep an eye on it.
Well, let's take a look at what you guys thought. That's the thoughts from Harry, but what about you guys if you've been getting in touch? Hashtag LMES. We're going to pull up some of the comments now. So great job, Fordzilla. Couldn't agree more. A little bit unlucky for them, but overall they did do a fantastic job as well. So Camry Racing getting in touch and saying that. Here's RZM Phoenix. You absolute hero for RZM. Rise there, of course, did a good job in that one. Pulled themselves right up into position in the championship. Hold one of those valuable top 6 spaces. And short and sweet, go Lazarus, Simon Lee. Yes, they're doing very
support's
good.
Always good.
Yeah, it always helps. Championship leaders, of course, so doing a fantastic job. Here's what's coming up next. Of course, we've got the Pro Team Series. We've got the Pro-Am qualifiers as well. So we're on the 4th of 6th Rivals events on Forza Motorsport 7. If you've watched this and you want to qualify for the Le Mans Esports Super Final and you've got Forza Motorsport 7, then guess what? You can do that until the 9th of February, until the end of the 9th of February, the Lancia Corsa at Nürburgring GP. If you're the fastest in your region, then you'll qualify through, and if you don't get it there, then there's a 5th and 6th Rivals events as well. All details on lemonsesports.com. The next round in this series, the Pro Team Series, round number 3, is going to be on the 29th of February in the Lancia Corsa at Kota. We had our first 3 of 9 AM drivers qualify through at the Autosport Show. 2 more events, where we will have qualifying, and that will be, the next one will be at the Sebring International Raceway. I'm going to cough in a second, so Harry, I'm going to ask you to give your final thoughts before we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, we saw ultimately some beautiful driving, great overtakes, great defending, challenging conditions, reverse grids. It's got everything that you want from motor racing is here. We get to see these guys putting on defensive driving. They have to overtake, they have to perform pit stops, they have to work as a team to get where they want to be, they have to put the practice in to get the results they want, and they have to drive a variety of different cars and different tracks that really bring out the best or worst in people, unfortunately, if that's the case. But ultimately, I don't think we can ask for too much more when we watch these guys race for 20 minutes and an hour at a time, and they provide us with everything that we want and more.
Sorry, it's like you were bringing me to tears there. Harry's bringing me to tears. Oh my God. Well, I can't believe it's over. Right, until the 29th of February, that's it. Don't forget the Rivals event going on until the 9th if you want to qualify in one of the Pro-Am teams. If you're going to Sebring and you don't even have an Xbox, guess what? You can go try and qualify there in the top 3. But this has been round number 2. I hope you've enjoyed the action until the 29th of February. That is all. I've been Chris McCarthy. He's been Harry Jacks. Thank you very much for watching Le Mans Esports. More details on our website of how you can get involved and what's coming up when. But for now, it's goodbye from the pair of us.